Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 231. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. I'm the hostess with the mostess. So says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of you know. And that'll actually make a lot more sense when you listen to our Green Lantern segment later on in the show. But on this episode, we're going to be speaking about Green Lantern. Actually, we're going to be talking about all the Green Lantern books. We're going to be talking about Emerald Warriors. We're going to be talking about Green Lantern. We're going to be talking about Brightest Day. We're going to be talking about Green Lantern Corps next week. We ran out of time to talk about that book on this particular episode. We have a whole bunch of things that we're going to be talking about, though. We also have two segments where we recorded with listeners and also with a couple of comic companies from the New York Comic Con. So some more New York Comic Con content. Our New York Comic Con content will be wrapping up next week, and then we'll be jumping back to listener voicemails. So those of you that send in listener voicemails, don't worry, we're going to be getting back to those. And I also want to thank our listening audience for their patience this week. I'm finally done with conferences and report cards, so we're going to be getting back to a normal schedule on the show. Thanks for accepting the couple of days delay here and there the last few episodes. It was I needed some extra time to be able to get my professional work done before I could get into the show. So thank you again for your patience. And we will still be doing 4 a month this month in November. So don't worry, we're going to still stick to our Raging Bullets goal of 4 a month every month throughout 2010, just like we did last year. And we're well on our way to that goal. So thanks a lot once again for your patience. We remain proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Actually, I want to give a shout-out to DCBService.com and their DC books this month. It looks like, and I'm just going through the list right now, it looks like all of the monthlies, including many of the specials that are coming out in miniseries, are going to be, instead of 40% off this month, 45% off. So a lot of these $2.99 books are now $1.64. So if for this month, if there's books that you've been wanting to try, this is really a great month at DCB Service to give them a shot at getting them at 45% off. They do have a number of things, too, at 50% off as well, special miniseries and things that are going on. I mean, it's just an insane amount of discounts this month. I don't know if the price change is what's pushing that, just for this month, but it's they all say special discount, and we've got this great deal of $1.64 for, and I'm going across all the line, everything from your main titles, like your main Batman books, to books like Zatanna and things like that, which are smaller. They don't tie into other main heroes like Superman or Batman or something like that. So it's really a great chance for those of you who've been wanting to try out some of DC's books. Almost all the titles are 45% off, and the ones that aren't are at least 40% off, so it's a pretty good month. So definitely check that out over at our friends at DCBService.com, your pre-order source. Over at InStockTrades.com, some of my Vertigo titles I actually do pick up now in trade, and the reason why is I found that I was stockpiling them just because of time. It wasn't because of quality. And one of them that I've always been enjoying is Unknown Soldier. The trade paperback volume 3 is over at InStockTrades.com. It's dry season. This collects issues 15 to 20 of the series. A brutal murder at an IDP camp sends the Unknown Soldier spiraling into the dark underground of the refugee population in this new collection. And it's regularly $14.99, 38% off, only $9.29. That's 144 pages, and it's great artwork. It's a really great story. I'm really enjoying Unknown Soldier, and we don't get to talk about Vertigo on the show as much as I'd like to, so when I see something like this, I like to recommend it. It's a really interesting series if you're looking for something a bit with a different flavor and you haven't checked out Unknown Soldier. This is really a great way to get in a trade, because the great thing about Vertigo stories are usually when they're collected in a trade, you get a nice, complete story arc in there that you can read and see if the book is for you. And even if you find that it wasn't your cup of tea, at least at the end of the day, you can say, hey, I picked up this cool trade, I got to read the whole story, and I felt I got something complete in this package. So definitely consider checking out some of these Vertigo trades over at InStockTrades.com. Remember, at InStockTrades.com, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. So if there's been some hardcovers or trades or things like that you've been considering picking up, consider grabbing them together in a bundle, especially with the holiday season coming up and stuff like that. Saving on that shipping, plus getting the discount on top of it's really a great deal. So thank you to our friends over at InStockTrades.com for their amazing deals. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
We are crystal men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
First of all, I want to welcome back to the show, friend of the show, Myron Rumsey. And Myron, you're from the blog of OA, and thank you for once again coming back to Raging Bullets.
Well, it's an honor to be back again, Sean. As always, I love the conversation, and it's great to be part of the show.
Myron, you and I, while we were waiting for Jim, we started chatting about the DVD releases that came out today, and it was really cool that Secret Origins, the story of DC Comics, came out. This is narrated by Ryan Reynolds. It's a 90-minute documentary about the history of DC Comics. And it's available on DVD and as a digital download, it looks like. You watched this today. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. What did you think of it, without giving any spoilers away to people, just kind of as a general overview? What did you think about this?
It was really pretty fascinating. I mean, they of course avoided some of the controversial subject matter, because it's a celebratory film based around the 75th anniversary of DC. But, it was really interesting. They go all the way back to the very beginning, and they kind of cover every era of DC Comics straight through and talk a little bit about the future. So it was done very well.
I honestly hope this does well enough to spark interest in doing more documentaries about comics in general. Not just DC, just comics in general. Because I do find the history of comics fascinating. Whether it's celebratory or, like you said, it gets into the controversial. If these do well, you're going to get, like, authorized, unauthorized ones and things like that, where you're going to get, a variety of different perspectives on it. I'm a big fan of that. It's something that you get, I'm a Disney fan as well, and I'm not just a fan of the Disney features, I'm a fan of documentaries that look behind the scenes, books that look behind the scenes, and I love both the ones that are company approved and the ones that aren't company approved, because you get kind of a big picture of the whole thing. And this is, to me, I was excited that this came out. Also coming out today was the Superman Shazam Return of Black Adam Blu-ray. I was actually really excited for this because when I saw it today, I didn't realize, I knew I was paying basically for the Superman and Shazam short to get that on Blu-ray. But what I was glad to see is that not only are the Jonah Hex, Green Arrow, and Spectre shorts on here, which I knew they were going to be, but they're extended versions with added footage. So I feel like now I'm like, okay, this justifies the purchase even more because these shorts are actually extended versions, which I didn't realize was going to be the case. And so I'm happy about that. Did you guys get this or order it, or was I the only one that grabbed this one? Or
No, I ordered it. I'll get it with my comics tomorrow.
Okay.
And I didn't pick it up yet. I did digitally download the Superman Shazam short and really, really liked it. I thought they did a great job.
Oh, that's available as a separate download?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool as well. So for people who maybe invested in all the other releases and were like, oh, I don't want to have to go out, you can actually purchase just the digital download of that. How much was the digital download, if you don't mind?
I think it was only like $6 or $7. It wasn't too expensive.
Yes, that's good for people who want to do the short on a budget. If you've got all the other releases, that's a cool budget way to do it as well. So that's cool. That's neat to see that there's two different options for that. So it was a good day today as far as... I haven't had a chance to watch any of these. I'm hoping when we're done recording that I have a chance to maybe watch one. But, the short for sure I'll definitely be able to watch. But I'm really anxious to watch the documentary, just to see how that goes. Guys, and Myron, the reason why we brought you on today is there's so much stuff going on, and we haven't talked about any of the Green books or Brightest Day, really, in a little while with any kind of depth. So I immediately thought today, when Jim and I had mentioned this, I thought about bringing you into the discussion as well, just to discuss. And one of the books that's been standing out for me has been, we're in the third issue of this Green Lantern Emerald Warriors book. And it's Peter Tomasi, so it's kind of like a no-brainer. I was enjoying his run greatly on Green Lantern Corps. I'm so thrilled to see that this book is continuing the tradition of what I've liked in the other two books. It's got the same kind of A-level, A-list book feel to it, where this feels like a top-tier DC book. But at the same time, it feels as unique to the Green Lantern books as Green Lantern Corps does versus Green Lantern. There's something special and unique about it. In its tone and its delivery. I love the idea of Guy Gardner taking the spotlight, but it not just being about Guy. It going back to some of the threads that were really interesting in Green Lantern Corps, like what was going on with Arisia and Sodom Yat and Daxam, and bringing in Kilowog and showing us where he's at this stage. And them having a tough time with knowing how to trust Guy, for example, because there's a big secret that's kind of hanging over this whole thing right now. And I'm loving that kind of dynamic in this group that Guy's making partnerships with Red Lanterns, he's making partnerships with Ganthet, and there's promises being made that these two aren't in the loop on just yet. They're starting to become more clued in, but they're having to put a lot of faith in Guy at the moment, which I think is an interesting transition for Guy, to see him in this role of respect from the other Lanterns. How are you guys liking this book, and what is it that, if you're enjoying it, what's grabbing you about it? Myron, you want to go?
Sure. I'm loving the book. I mean, Pete Tomasi's name on the cover, obviously, it's going to be good. But I really like how they're just continuing to expand on the Green Lantern universe. There's a lot of intrigue. I think it's interesting, like you said, that Guy is kind of in a leadership role here, but there's a lot that we know kind of what's going on behind the scenes with Guy that the rest of the characters don't. And when that comes to a head, it's going to be a great read. Just a great read.
Jim?
Oh, yeah, big time. Because, I've always said the Green Lantern Corps in itself is my favorite Green Lantern. I like the stories of the different personalities. And we get Guy who is traditionally known as the loose cannon, the wild guy, just that, that person who's just out there in left field doing, his own, high bravado, high, action, blast and first kind of stuff. And we're seeing a kind of a different side to him in that this, the stuff leading up to this where he was very serious as to what's going to happen. He knows what this big secret that he's got is going to, jeopardize his relationship, and or complete, destroy his friendships with the other Lanterns, but he knows it's something that has to be done. So when you get serious moments of Guy, that always makes me wondering, okay, what exactly is going on here? And we're getting glimpses of it, with, this issue, but there's still so much more unknown to get played out. And I'm really that's for me is one of the big things drawing me in, because I get to see, I know, we've already seen some different stuff with Guy, but I know down the pipeline, we're going to get even some more stuff out of him. And it's definitely, the fact that he's got the red in him, there's going to be that rage issue is going to pop up again. And I like, seeing Babar in the in this issue.
I love that too, that tongue in cheek, because it's Guy has matured, but he's still Guy. And comments like that, or that just that little hint of irreverence, it just reminds us that this is still Guy Gardner. He is an honor guard, and he has every reason to be there. And we do see from his internal dialogue, and also the way he does handle himself on the external, that he deserves every bit of where he's at. But I love that we haven't lost him, and I think that's an interesting balance with this character that makes him unique out of Earth 4. And that's something that I think is a key to what I think Johns, Tomasi, and now Tony Bedard have been doing in handling these characters, is they're keeping them all very true to the core of who they are without losing anybody.
Oh, definitely, dude. And I tell you, one of the things that I'm kind of wondering about when we start going into deeper is how many more Lanterns are going to actually get pulled into this. Now, we know who the main people are going to be, but I'm wondering if this is going to be kind of like a Green Lantern Corps-ish style, of story where we're going to get more Lanterns coming in, either, fly in for one issue, fly back out, or if it's just going to be these core members and that's it.
Well, it sounds like this is leading to Hal versus Guy at the very least. But there were those hints in New York, for example, that is going to be trouble in the Corps. As far as where we're going to see some headbutting in general from especially Earth's Lanterns. But we know for sure that Hal is not going to be happy about this. Guy knew that from the get-go. So, there's no way that we aren't going to see these two butting heads.
Well, they always say it's not easy being green,
Oh, God. You know how many times you've used that one, Kermit?
And it works every single time.
No, it does. Wait, hold on.
I get the groan, and I love that.
But who does it work for?
I enjoy it.
It's good. You know what? One of the things talking about actually not easy being green, as we kick off this issue, I really love the art and story presentation of the Red Lantern with Guy in these moments, because it added to me this sense of why you would want the red purged and how big of a decision Guy is faced with here. Because he's told that he can't purge the red, that he's going to need it. And a powerful argument is placed before him as far as to why he needs to do this. But imagine having that inside you. This isn't something on the outside. It's not a matter of wearing a ring and you can pop it off. This red is a part of him internally. He's spitting out this gunk. I would want that out of me in the fastest way. So it actually, this whole debate And the fact that Guy would even debate over it. You know, we don't see Guy screaming, I need this out of me now. He's actually listening to both sides of the argument, when his real focus on coming to this place was purging this. He was dead set that this is what he was going to do. He was purging it. But I don't think this is certainly not the same Guy Gardner we would have seen 20 years ago at this time in comics. He would not, 20 years ago, he wouldn't have listened to any of this. The JLI Guy Gardner would have, been Purge City, I think. I feel firmly. This character has evolved a great deal.
Definitely. He's willing to put the bigger picture, taking more importance to him than his own personal well-being.
And I think it's one of the things that I love about this art team on there is they framed how horrifying the Red would be by her, like, kind of surrounding him and smothering him with it. I think when you see the lanterns and, like, the bright green in that heroic mode, but then the calm of Babar, I think just that whole opening page to me was beautifully rendered in a way that it just added to me to the sense of what's going on with Guy, but then also brought to our attention, they're here with the Blue Lanterns, and this was our first, I didn't know up till now, this is what Guy, one of the reasons why Guy was doing this. The Green Lanterns are losing power. They are not getting I guess they technically are getting supercharged by the Blue here. So even with being supercharged by the Blue, their ring power levels are at 99%. So what are they like otherwise?
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that they were being supercharged, but that was all being siphoned off, so they weren't really getting the benefit of it.
Okay. That's it. Yeah. So they are all just it's the siphoning process. Is it so under their radar that they aren't really aware of what's going on?
I don't think there's been any interaction between the green and the blue for them to see a big difference.
Yeah, and I was thinking that, it's probably the siphon level is depending on the energy level of the ring. Uh-huh. So if you have a ring that's at like a 25%, you're not going to have a full siphon because that'll draw attention. Whereas if you have a ring that's at a 300%, you're going to do a heavy pull on it, and that's why it should be at 300, but that's why it's only at 99% because of the siphon. So the greater power, the greater the pull.
So I guess what I'm going off of what you're saying and building on that, is it that the rings are always stuck at 99% because of the siphon? So, like, if you are dealing with a normal ring charge, let's say I normally go and charge up my ring's only going to get to 99% on a full charge, which means that 1% is constantly being siphoned off, which is why it's under the radar of the Lanterns. They aren't aware of it because the amount is only 1%.
Right, so, yeah, I think it's pretty negligible.
Right, so in their eyes, like, this not because we keep seeing them, they're staying at power level 99%, right? Mm-hmm. So going off of what we're saying here, that they're being maxed out at the moment, and going off of what you're saying, Jim, they should be at like 300% and all that, or it should be this outrageous number. What's happening is everything over 99% is being siphoned here, and that's a constant. So going off of what you're saying, it's negligible. They don't notice it when they're at the normal level because it's only 1% that's being siphoned. So they wouldn't notice it in the heat of the battle or anything like that because they would just take it as normal ring siphoning versus something that would really red flag to them. But if you're taking 1% from all of the Lanterns, what kind of power source are you pulling in?
Yeah, big time.
Now, Sodom Yacht is actually being, and I'm jumping around a little bit in this issue, but he's somebody who ever since his sacrifice, I really liked the character development of his relationship with Arisia. So seeing the two of them kind of brought back together in this, and I thought it was a storyline. I'm like, geez, I hope they don't drop this. I hope they go back to it because I really liked the partnership forming there because I've always liked Arisia back when she and Hal were dating. So to have her back in now and have her in a new relationship and furthering that character and doing something with her, I think has been a real strength of this universe is kind of not ignoring any of the main player Lanterns from the past while at the same time focusing on some new ones. Do you think he's really, if he's doing this, if he is part of the siphoning, which I can't imagine him being a part of it, but if he is, do you think he's aware of it?
I don't think so. I don't think he's aware of it, and I don't think he is the siphon. I don't know why, I don't know what Atrocitus has for information that makes him think that. But if he is the siphon, I think he's completely unaware.
Yeah,
I think the siphon's coming through whoever has Ion, and because of Sodom's connection with Ion is why it appears he is the siphon point.
Well, Ion was taken from him, right? He is no.
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly, Ion is no longer a part of him. He is now just a Green Lantern, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we're dealing with maybe that. You're right. Maybe that's. So where's Ion? Wasn't Ion taken?
Yeah, Ion's captured by whoever is capturing the entities. And
Mini-Me has Ion. Yeah. Mini-Me has Ion.
Yes.
A mini midge.
Mini midge.
So that's interesting then. So I don't know. Then could the Siphon be another? See, I kept wondering: is the Siphon this character in the Unknown Sector?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Ultimately, everything's going to lead back to that guy. Because you see him building up his own little power base, his own, energy flux, from the Lantern recruits and/or people who should be a Lantern kind of deal. So that's got to definitely have a draw. But I'm thinking he's not the only draw. I am thinking it's because of the entity is captured. So we're probably seeing the same type of siphoning happening in the Sinestro Corps because Parallax is also captured.
That's interesting.
And just Sinestro hasn't mentioned it yet because Sinestro would never, mention that he's weaker. He wouldn't throw that out there, especially because of the Bull is still out there. So the Red Lanterns aren't being drained yet. So it's kind of you don't want to tip your hand. You don't want to show weakness because this is an alliance, but it's a very uneasy alliance, just waiting to snap and waiting to throw down again. So kind of this whole deal. Is why I'm thinking why Sinestro is willing to work so well with them, because he knows I solved the Lantern's problem, my problem also gets solved at the same time.
Do you think Sinestro's aware of it?
I think so, because Sinestro is Sinestro. I can't imagine he wouldn't be aware of this whole deal.
Well, the Guardians are the Guardians. Hal isn't aware of this. Hal doesn't know what's going on.
But Sinestro's super cool.
Well, so's Hal. My point is, I guess I'm wondering who really does know about this. Because it's really a clever plan, the way that they're doing it. These guys are able to charge up to, pretty darn near full capacity without realizing it. And the other interesting thing, going off of what you're saying, if we're right in this theory that it is just the entities that have been taken that are causing this, that means that the Star Sapphires aren't victims to this right now. Because their entity is still in their possession, at least for the moment. But that seems prepared. That could be changing, which if we have time, we'll talk about Brightest Day. But is that do we all? I mean, Myron, are you seeing it this way? Do you think it's because the entities are captured, or is there something else at work here?
I think it's because the entities are captured. I think so.
So I'm going to be curious to see what the actual end game here is. Then with capturing these entities. So I guess then I wonder though, I guess then that goes back to what you're saying, Jim. It's not just this person in the Unknown Sector, it's a lot of what Mini-Midge is doing here then.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think it's a tag team between the two of them. I was leaning more towards Mini-Midge being the Siphon and not the other guy, and the other guy is just doing his own kind of power base, because when Midge showed up, he didn't completely... He knew the guy was up to something, but he didn't know the whole length that the guy was going and what, exactly how far detailed he was going. So there's definitely another uneasy alliance between the quote-unquote villains of the story. So it's one of those things, again, where as the story plays out, we're going to get bits and pieces here, and it's, overall... It's one of those giant mystery intrigue type of stories that has me just hook, line, and sinker. I'm chomping at this one.
I think what works for me so much about these Green Lantern books, and this is something that's continuing into Emerald Warriors, is the fact that even though we've got that big overarching storyline going on, there's multi-levels of storytelling going on. Like Sodom Yat, even though now he's going to have to deal with his fellow Lanterns and this Red Lantern coming after him, has his own problem on Daxam. He's wanted for crimes against his people. Now, all he's guilty of is saving them. But in their eyes, because they've lost his power, actually it reminds me a lot of what poor Adam Strange goes through. Hero, not a hero, that type of thing. But, Sodom Yat is come back from basically giving up his life. He did a lot of what Hal did in Final Night, and only to find out that now he is completely unappreciated by his own people.
Well, we saw these people were acting like putzes back in the day. When they first got their powers and they first started, they had that whole, oh, keep away from us. We don't want your help. Okay, yeah, you do this. Oh, now we have our powers. We don't need you. I remembered constantly throughout the Green Lantern Corps stories when we were seeing them with their power, when they just kicked, what's her name off the planet. I just wanted to reach in the comic and start smacking people. So these guys are not, what I would consider friendly or neighborly people.
Besides this whole Daxam thing, I do like, speaking of the Unknown Sector villain, I like this guy a great deal. He's one of those, I didn't realize that we are dealing with a character who has had history in the Green Lantern universe before. It's a small history, but he is definitely somebody that they're pulling from, at least, a previous storytelling from him. So I love the fact that he is, in his own way, taking advantage of, I guess, the emotions through using telepathy. I mean, imagine being a powerful enough telepath that you are taking down other telepaths and using them as kind of a battery of his own? Is that how you guys are reading this, that he's using them to supercharge him?
That's the impression I got. And it was interesting to notice that they were in the shape of an eye.
I'm going to be honest with you. I did not notice that until you just said that. I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah, because you're right.
That's cool.
And there's, it tells you what a dunce I am. There's 3 separate panels here I'm looking at right here where it's definitely in the shape of an eye. Captain Obvious on my end.
Well, and it's interesting, even though Zardor apparently has a history with the Guardians, he really hasn't been seen in the books before. So it's kind of an unknown history.
Yeah. So has this guy had any appearance before here?
Not that I'm aware of. I've never heard of the character before. I did some research when I saw his name. Couldn't find anything on the guy at all.
So I'm a fan of that, though, because there's so much we don't know about the Guardians and their history on camera, but also off camera, that there would be villains that, like this, there'd be opportunities for them to creep up, and we know them to be secretive. So, it's what else haven't they told us? Yeah, great, what else is new? Another secret from the Guardians.
When I first saw him and then I saw this eye logo, the first thing I thought is there a connection between Zardor and Despero?
Oh, okay. I'm feeling even more like a dunce right now because this eye logo that you're talking about is all over his facility.
Yeah.
Not only do we see it in the way that he's putting these people into this pool, but the eye logo is all over the place. I must be completely oblivious. He uses it as wallpaper.
I think he's even the wallpaper on his phone.
Yeah. This is great.
I tell you, one of the things that we keep talking about, just different levels of intrigue and all the different stories. And the one part that really is just, I gotta say, is just so outstanding is the fact that how he's getting these people, what he's doing, and it's not just capturing them and using them. It's he's manipulating them before they get the ring, beefing up their ability to suppress fear by going into that part of their brain, making them prime candidates for the ring. But he's already got his hooks in them, knowing they're going to get the ring and all that. And I love seeing these super villains who, not only have just a lot of massive power for the big boom fight, but also have the intelligence to pull off fighting an entire corps of heroes. This is a guy who could very easily take down the Guardians, who could take down the Green Lantern Corps. This is a very realistic villain, and I love seeing that kind of stuff, which especially figuring out the big guns that are going to be going after this guy, he's got to be a massive powerhouse. So one of the things I'm loving the story going on, but I am just eagerly anticipating the final battle that we're going to get, where we're going to see the cream of the crop throwing down with this guy.
Well, and every Lantern that he kills gives him another in the fold, or every Lantern that gets killed, even if he manipulates or just watches from the outside. So it's an interesting plan. What's happened quite recently with things like Blackest Night and the deaths of the Lanterns there have actually enabled a lot of what he's doing to have taken place. This is a direct result of the fact that we saw so many Lanterns die. So this is a really interesting plan that he's got here, and you're right, it adds a lot more of a creep factor to it, which is something I'm really enjoying. in DC that we're seeing more original. I'm a big fan of the classic villains. I love, your Sinestros, the Joker, your typical character, Scarecrow, characters like that. But I'm loving, too, this focus on not only creating new villains, but creating new villains that add something that they don't feel like weak, wishy-washy. They've got, like, this is an interesting villain that really you can get years' worth of storytelling out of through, having him concoct all kinds of plans, partner up with people, do all kinds of things. Now, because of this unknown sector, you've got this character that's come out of nowhere that really is scary. And I find this as engaging as the reimagining of, like, a Brainiac, for example, that they did in the Superman books, where they've made him creepier now. This character is one, I agree with you, that I could see going toe-to-toe with the other Lanterns because of what he's created here.
Yeah, I think you see that, with Zardor and the Weaponer of Cord, to go back to the Green Lantern Corps book, that this is universe expanding, but these are not like the old days when, creators would create a villain in a book just to have somebody to have the good guy fight against. These are credible threats that have some longevity to them.
Well, I think that's what I mean, too. And you actually, you articulated that so well. It's that they aren't just one-shot villains to get through the issue and add a little flair for the single issue, and then maybe they'll be used again, maybe they won't. These are villains that are put into place to be used for long-term purposes. And the storyline that they're being used for is not just a one-issue thing. This is something, we're 3 issues into this series now, and we're barely touching the surface of what this guy's going to bring to the table. And because there's so many other things also going on in the book. So I really love that use of a brand new villain. And I'm laughing at the eye thing again, because all of these Lanterns, or are these Lanterns, or are these, again, I guess these are more telepaths?
Yep. Did you see who was in the center? It was Iris West.
What?
It's an eye, Iris.
Oh my God! I'm jumping. What? I'm looking at the image trying to figure that out.
That was a good one, because I actually am, like, sitting here looking, and then I'm looking at, like, the human, like, body up there. I'm like, am I missing something here? What am I not catching? But what I'm actually smacking myself on the head is going back again to the eye theme. I must be a total dunce, because I was totally oblivious to the fact that these creatures are all in eyes. Not only were they set up in an eye theme in the pool, but the ones that are waiting in, like, incubation. I guess he's pulling from them, right, still?
Well, he removed their eyes to make clones of them.
Right.
So he's got his backup spare batteries.
Mm-hmm. And the clones are all in, though, eye-shaped pods.
They're iPods.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, you're batting 1,000 today.
You beat me to the punch, man.
Or batting 0. It all depends on how you look at it.
No, it's working for me. That was a good one.
This is outstanding.
I love, though, the way this issue closed off, because guys got to really take a look at going back to the sacrifice he's making here and the risk he's taking, is that if he is overtaken by the Red, he'll die. That's what the Red does. And Baybar is basically telling him, this is a risk that you're taking knowingly, going off and doing this. But guys realizing that I'm going to need this where we're going, especially going into a place where the Lanterns can be overtaken. Kicking into the Red gives me an advantage that the other two don't have. And we might need that. And we're actually seeing throughout this issue, and this is, again, brilliant storytelling, the villain that we're seeing laid out here is giving us the perfect reason why Guy needs to make the decision that he's making. And I love that because we're getting, a full view of all of the events, are like, Guy's right to do this. And it actually gives me more respect for Guy, that he has the foresight to say, this situation's definitely bigger than me, and it's bigger than me just as a regular Lantern. I need to be able to take advantage of every possible swerve that I can bring to the table. I don't know that I could do what he's doing right now. Keeping that stuff inside me, knowing what it did to him last time around, he barely made it back last time around. To put yourself through that again, to put yourself at that risk again, is to me something that I love. That I actually, from this, I feel that Guy's more human now. Like, to the point where I want to talk to him and say, dude, you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, I know.
And I love that there's an emotional connection that I'm getting to Guy Gardner here because of his decision-making and how well it was developed all the way through this. It wasn't just 2 panels. This was throughout the entire issue. We got to see this decision coming to the forefront where we got to look at both sides of it, and I really felt like I was making the decision along with him and asking myself, what would I do in that position? And I think it's really hard without being in Guy's place, but that was something I thought was a massive strength of this issue, is that we got to see Guy Gardner facing this really and right from the cover, I think, of the issue was a great example of just, what this could possibly mean for Guy. What happens if Guy loses it? What's going to bring him back? If he loses at the wrong time, is he then going to become a liability to the team?
Right. Well, and knowing, too, that he may have to turn on Aricia and Kilowog at some point. They may not be able to help him because he may be so overwhelmed and take them out that he may have nobody to help him get back.
Yeah.
You think about it, last time it was Kyle who pulled him back and all that because he thought he was dead, and then when he wasn't dead, and even then there was a definite effort to pull him back. So
guys, you're gonna kill me. I know I we're gonna talk green, but I can't help it. I got to talk a little Brightest today because issue number 13, the issue was glowing when I got it, and I don't know why. Did your copy do that? I don't know if yours did.
Well, when I opened it up, it did go kind of deal. So
see, mine did. I didn't need to open it to do that. Mine came that way. This was this is a great example of understanding what makes these characters cool. It's the Hawks in this Hawk world. And I love these moments where we've gotten a firm, definitive answer that Shayera was, in fact, Kendra. Mm-hmm. Because it was revealed that their last death, quote-unquote death, that Hathset mentioned, was the fact that they were killed by the Black Lanterns, meaning that it would have been Kendra and Carter who were killed by the Black Lanterns. And I love that Shire is spitting in his face saying, this is going to really bug your track record. But her strength in this is something that I really enjoy because it was something that I always liked about Kendra. And it was funny how, since Kendra's death, I've been thrilled to see Shayera back because I know what it means for Carter. But I've been looking for what is my attachment now to Shayera because I liked Kendra so much. And I love that I feel that this attitude and presentation from Shayera is very much a piece of what I liked about Kendra. It was, this is a conversation that I think Kendra would have been very comfortable having in a similar fashion. So I'm seeing these character traits that I really liked about her present in Shayera as well, which was important for me as a Hawk fan to see this character. Because really, for me, my love for the Hawks came from the JSA series and really kicked off with Kendra first into the return of Hawkman from Carter. I did read Hawkworld years ago from Tim Truman, and I read that Hawkman series afterwards. But it was like this reinvigoration when that JSA series kicked off that really sent me back getting the Silver Age stuff in the showcase volumes, getting the Golden Age stuff in the hardcovers, and then going through Shadow War and all this stuff. I really just started reading all kinds of Hawkman material from the past when the return of Hawkman came in. But it really, Kendra, a lot of times I don't talk enough about how important that character was to me. And I think it's pivotal right here because this issue for me, I think what it really did for me is brought home for me that Kendra is a part of Shayera, especially with her personality and getting to see a spotlight on her and her not just being Hawkman's sidekick, her being her own person and bringing something to the partnership that's just as important as what Carter brings to the table. And I liked that. I think that was really cool.
One of the cool things I digged about that opening segment between her and him was even after, that spit and he's still trying to goad her, he gives her a headbutt. She's bleeding from the face and she just gives him this look that completely just hardcore look. The only thing you're going to be holding, Hath, is your own warm guts, which will finally end this curse of yours forever. And the look on her face, I was like, dang, this is cool.
What's interesting to me with this, too, is it's something I liked in the Secret Origins stories that we've seen that have been done in DC. I like when they retell an origin that they're adding something to the mythos that will add to further storytelling. In this case, this is kind of a secret origin issue for the Hawks, and kind of just re-explaining what happened to them, how the curse all started in the past with Khufu and Shera, and how the Pharaoh died, and bringing Mom into this now, and realizing that Mom is just as responsible for the curse, if not more responsible than Hath Set. She was playing Puppet Master in the background. So now, instead of this being a story where we're seeing Hath Set yet again being put in place as the villain, we're finding out that what we thought was the real villain of their story was never really the case. It was Mom. And I love that, because that's something, to me, I'm like, wow, okay, we've taken now the Hawk mythos and added a new layer to it. And that's what I've always liked about, we go talk about Green Lantern's Secret Origins with Atrocitus and all that, how it played so much into these huge events, right up to Blackest Night and into Blackest Night, and how that all played out. It added long-term storytelling to the mythos. This reimagining now has added a new major villain to the Hawks. And whatever happens out of this for the Hawks, this story is going to change them in some way. And I love that about them. It's added something that I think she's a very cool villain. I love this idea that, she's been hiding in this Hawk world for all this time, planning this master plan and using, their various lives as a way to open a gateway. Who would have thunk, and I got more I want to talk about the Hawks, but who would have thunk, going back to what we were talking about earlier with, how is this is all going to tie into Zamaron and what's going on with, of course, the Star Sapphires? How is this going to tie into the whole entity storyline? Is she going to win there? If she's not going to win and the Hawks are able to help the Star Sapphires defeat, it's funny how this is all kind of intersected. And I love this whole universe feel of what's going on in Brightest Day, because this storyline seems to be able to effortlessly fall in and out of various titles and storylines without you having to be reading them. Like, right now we're being popped on Zamaron. I don't need to know what's going on Zamaron. But the fact that I'm reading the Green Lantern books and know what's been going on with Hal and her and how she's just been put in this position as being the queen, she's kind of taking over because she feels that this is her duty and she can actually do something here. And now coming and seeing them, the Hawks, and all of this intersect with her is something I've really enjoyed about Brightest Day. I've enjoyed it when we've seen the Hawk and Dove segments and then reading them in Birds of Prey. Yet, at the same time, going back again, I don't feel I need to be reading any of those books. It's just fun as a reader of those books to be seeing the other perspective, if I'm making any sense here at all.
Oh, definitely. And I tell you, I like the fact that we know that the Star Sapphire battery, or within the battery, was at least, one time the Hawks, Carter, the Khufu's and, Shayera's body were in there originally inside that battery, which we saw back, in either, it was in Blackest Night we saw that. So we still see a continuing connection between this story arc and those people. So definitely looking forward to seeing where this is going to play out. Now, I'm assuming it's going to continue playing here in Brightest Day, and it's not going to, but it could very easily shift over to the Green Lantern story because we're seeing some of her stuff going on there. So it's, again, you're talking about just the shifting between. I'm loving that. It's that universal feel to it. And I got money on the big guy, by the way. I think, definitely, the Star Sapphire's entity looks like he can throw down and he can hold his own, so I'm going to put 10 on him.
I'm in the corner of Hawkman, but just because, that big guy, you might think that big guy looks cool, but this is Carter. He's carrying a mace.
I'm seeing Carter and him working together. I see a tag team going on here because they are part of that, that strength and that energy that is that undying love. So with them there, because you can see they were pulled, because they're part of the gate, they were pulled through with them. So they're right now on Zamaron as well. So I'm thinking we're going to see the Hawks, break free, and it's going to be the Hawks, the Star Sapphire, all against Mommy Dearest. And you put those odds, she's in trouble.
I think you're right. But I go back to what you guys were both saying about this feels more like a one universe. There used to be a lot of criticism that DC didn't feel like it was one universe, and every book was kind of an island unto itself. And I think what we're really seeing is a great age of universal continuity, where we're seeing things kind of intersect in a very thought-out manner.
Myron, let me ask you this. Are you reading all of the books with the Blackest Night I mean, the Black Snipe, sorry, the Brightest Day banner on them?
No. I'm reading the Green Lantern books. I'm reading Birds of Prey. I think those are the only Brightest Day books I'm reading.
Are you feeling like, and I guess that's why I wanted to bring this back, because I was making a lot of assumptions. I'm reading everything with the banner on it. So I guess I'm not the best person to say. I guess what I enjoy about it is I've never felt like when I've read an issue of Brightest Day, I needed to go reread another title to understand what was going on. Or I've never felt like, geez, if I read this issue first, I would have enjoyed that issue more. So I guess that's kind of the perspective where I'm saying that I really am enjoying the fact that I don't feel like I have to be reading something else to read this. I like that presentation, yet I feel like I'm getting something bigger. Have you felt like, as you've been reading Brightest Day at any point, we're 13 issues in, have you felt like with the titles that you're not reading that you're missing some part of the story?
No, I don't really think I'm missing anything. I think if I were reading them, I probably would get more, a more developed story, because I'd get to see some of the progress of these other characters in those other books. I think one of the things that would be nice is if they kind of gave you a little bit of a blurb as to what's going on in the other books, just so you kind of got a snapshot of where things are. But I don't really feel like I'm missing anything if I don't have them.
Would you like what Marvel does? Like, I know Marvel does this in a lot of their books, where they have that like first page that's kind of a primer on what's going on.
I think that would be beneficial to some people who maybe, they feel like they need to know everything that's going on. I think it would be beneficial if there was a blurb like that maybe in the beginning of every issue of Brightest Day, if there were events that went on in issues that people maybe didn't pick up.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm always a fan of that, just in the sense I like a recap. I don't mind that. I like rereading the books too, so I don't mind doing that to get my recap as well. But I think sometimes it's fun to kind of just get a little primer. Hey, this is what happened last issue, and so I wouldn't be against that at all. I like this ancient Egypt, and it's one of the things I know they've announced that Robinson and was it Philip Tan is going to be doing the artwork on that new Hawkman series, and that they're going to be, in order to give the art team a break, they're going to be doing those past lives issues. I would love to read more stories set in Egypt, as far as just telling things that maybe we haven't seen fleshed out or developed of what their life was like as Khufu and Shira, as well as seeing the other lives that came afterwards. But I there's so much. I love the setting of ancient Egypt. I think it's just a very cool setting. It has its own kind of like cool mythology, and seeing what it meant when the Thanagarian ship came, and all these people live. I think there's a lot of storytelling that still is open to be done in between a lot of the panels of what we're seeing laid out here in this in the center of the book. Where the staple is on this one, where we kind of see that little primer there. I would love to see more of this. Because I just think it would be kind of interesting to see that past history. I like, I've loved stories with immortals. I love time travel characters and things like that. So that for me is part of the excitement, and I think it offers an opportunity for them as well to re-explore what it was like when he was a space cop. I'm hoping that they'll go to some of the other Hawkmen that maybe we've seen in print, and showing what that life was like, doing a one-off issue where we get to see a one-shot with those characters again. Maybe for fans of the Silver Age Hawkman, bringing in the space cop and showing, how he's connected to the current one. And I think that's some cool opportunities to revisit things we've seen before and things we haven't. I'm a fan of that. I liked it in Starman when they did that, and I'm hoping that's something we get to see quite a bit of in Hawkman in between the storylines. I'm guessing we're probably going to get one of those once a year. I'm guessing.
I'm hoping. Now,
what did you guys think about Batman at the end of the book?
Well, I was just going to say that's kind of like the white bat in the room. Because with all the previews that we're seeing, are you guys getting the hint that he might be the chosen one?
I say no. I just because they're leading it. I think it's just a little red herring or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's going to be Bruce. Granted, he would be a prime candidate for everything he's been through and all that, but I don't. It's too early in the series to announce who it is. But two, I think Bruce is Bruce.
Well, let me ask you this. Just because it says right here, Deadman says you've been waiting for Batman. Bruce Wayne of Earth, you've been chosen. I guess I'm wondering, maybe that isn't a red herring. Now, does that mean that Bruce has to accept? It wouldn't be the first time Bruce has been given opportunities like that and hasn't accepted.
Right.
I don't know. I'm wondering. I'm curious to see how this is going to play. I guess I don't know. I'm not I guess I'm not entirely convinced that he isn't the chosen one. Myron, what are you thinking? Are you thinking that's a red herring? I don't know that. I'm not saying you guys are that Jim. You're wrong. I'm not entirely convinced he's not. Myron, where are you at?
I think he might be the short-term White Lantern, but I don't see him staying in that role once the story's over with.
Agreed.
I think they've invested too much time in bringing Bruce back, and they've got so many plans with Batman Incorporated and where they're going with that to pull Bruce out to be a White Lantern wouldn't make any sense.
Oh, I 100% agree with. I guess what I'm saying is I think that he may in fact be the target chosen one at the moment, and that's going to be very short-lived.
yeah, I can see that happening.
And to be honest, I wouldn't even complain if that happened. If they did approach Bruce and they did offer it to him, I could see him. I think he would do a good job with it, and I can understand why they would. And I personally would love to see them offer it to him and have him say no and just see the reaction on her face like, wait, you do realize what we just offered you and you're turning it down?
It's a cool book. I love this this whole Brightest Day thing and how it's been going on. I've really liked, and we've talked about this on the show before. Actually, we've got a couple segments from the New York Comic Con that are airing at the end of this episode where we were chatting about Brightest Day. And one of the things I really do like about it is I've loved the ability this series has had to do issues where it kind of spotlights everybody, but then really quickly shifting to doing very targeted, focused, full issues on spotlighting certain characters. Like this Hawk issue was, for me, just when I was sitting here saying my favorite storyline's Aquaman, my favorite storyline's this, they come back again and give me an issue that I've been longing for with the Hawks. And I'm going to go on record as saying, as of issue number 13, my favorite storyline, hands down, bar none, is the Hawks. This is awesome. This is so what I wanted. The artwork was amazing in this issue. For a Hawkman fan, this was a pure geek out joy. And I think this, coupled with the announcement that I'm getting what looks like a Hawkman series coming up, I am giddy as can be with Hawks right now. So who do I want out of Brightest Day to have a series? Hawkman. And Shayera, though. It's really important to me. She is, to me, just as much of a star as he is, and I want to see more of her. And I want to see that continued development of her not just being the sidekick, but showing us why he's so in love with her, because she's a true partner. And that's important to the relationship for me, because it was something I always liked about Kendra, was that Kendra was able to stand on her own. We're seeing a Shayera here that's reminding us why Carter is so attracted to her, what she really brings to a table, and what it means to be married to somebody and to have that respect for that person. Is she identical to Carter? No, not at all. And actually, I think that is also a strength of hers. We do see distinct differences on how she approaches things. She's definitely, out of the two, a lot more of the calm thinker out of the two. That's not to say Carter has the brains, too. I mean, this guy's an archaeologist, and it's clear we've seen that. But he's also the hothead. Shayera's not. She can be, but not to the same level that Carter is. She's more calculated and thinks through things a little bit more than... Because I do think a lot of the times we see her manipulating with the things that she says and her actions to get a reaction from her adversaries. So I don't think, like with Shayera, when she does, when she takes a headbutt and then follows it up with her own things, she's, I think, in a strategic way, a lot of times looking for specific reactions and specific placements of people. And that's something that I like, that I feel, and I don't know if you guys are reading it the same way I am, but I liked, to me, in this issue, the distinction between the two, that just wearing the wings and carrying around weapons is not all they are. There's definite distinct personalities in what they bring to the table. And I loved that about this issue. Did you guys read that the same way I did?
Yeah, I think, they've got distinct personalities and distinctive tactics that they use, but yet they're similar, that they complement each other very, very well.
Oh, definitely. And it's, it is a cool relationship seeing those two and just seeing how they are, seeing them together, and just this whole, because I'm not as long-term as you are by any stretch of the imagination, but even limited scope seeing these two together, it has me hungering for more. It has me hungering seeing these two together, where this could go, what can it do. And the one thing I'm thinking about, the what if Hathset dies? What if the Hathset curse is finally completely broken and these two are now alive? Where does that take the characters? Does that take something away from the characters because they no longer have this curse looming over their head? They're no longer going to die and then come back later? Or does it just does it make things better for them?
Are you reading this that the curse is done? Because I didn't take it that way at all.
Not yet, but
I took it that I took it that Hathset's death just proved to us that Hathset was a pawn in the curse. Mm-hmm. Mom is just as much a part of the curse, and I don't see Mom dying in all this.
I see it. There's a chance that the curse can be lifted, but this could maybe end the curse and maybe set them free. And that's what I'm wondering is would. You want to see that as a longtime fan. Is that something you would want to see?
I want to see evolution for the characters. So I think there's a way to end. I don't know if you necessarily need to end the curse or not. I don't know that necessarily needs to happen. It could. I think there's a lot of ways to end the curse and keep the reincarnation thing in play. A clever writer can come up with a way to handle that. But I don't know. I guess I don't know that right now. I don't feel the curse is in danger. I think we've seen a reimagining of the curse, so to speak, where we see Mom and we've got this whole new. I think we've taken. I think we basically said that Hathset at this point was kind of wimpy. Yeah. So now we're going to jack it up a bit with Mom. I guess that's kind of the way I took this issue, is that we've got this villain now who has so much control over the nth metal that she can whip them around like they're marionettes. Yeah. And that's a really powerful adversary. So it's more than just her like going around trying to kill them to use, their dead bodies for her purposes. She's got a whole different agenda than Hathset. So I think, we've got to see that Hathset was as much of a pawn. And the truth of the matter is Hathset done? Well, just because he died doesn't mean we're not going to see him again. Because it's not the first time Hathset's died. So I guess I don't know. I don't feel that necessarily means the end of it. But going back to your actual original question, would I be mad if the curse came to an end? I think a clever writer can do that, can end the curse, because it was a part of the Hawk history going back to the Golden Age, but it wasn't always a part of the Hawkman storytelling. I mean, the Silver Age stories, these are space cops from Thanagar. No curse present. So it hasn't always been a part of the Hawk history. It's something that I was revived, and I don't think it was present again after the Golden Age until Jeff Johns brought it in JSA as a way to explain. And actually, it might not be just Jeff Johns. It might have gone all the way back to actually Robinson when at the start of JSA. I'm not sure, because Kendra, I think, was the first hints. So I think it was Johns and Robinson both bringing back in this idea of reincarnation and that these souls have been living and bringing it on. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be there. I like it, though. So I, as a fan, I don't really necessarily want to see it go. I like it being reimagined, though, and jacked up. It was a really long way to get to that answer, wasn't it?
Yes. What a surprise.
Yeah. Well, it's the Hawks. I could go on talking about the Hawks. You want me to lecture? I could do this. I like the Hawks. Did anybody? I don't know. It's something I haven't really mentioned on the show before, but Carter and Shahira, great characters. I love the Hawks.
You'd never have known.
No, let me ask you a question though for you guys. Actually, taking that out of the equation, because I know you guys aren't as passionate, obviously, about the Hawks as I have been. Has Brightest Day for you guys been a good primer for the Hawks? Because for me, these are all things that are keying on what I've loved about the Hawks, which I've obviously been spouting out right now. Have you felt a connection to these characters? And there's no right or wrong answer to that. I'm genuinely curious because it is definitely hitting on my beats of what I'm digging. But what about you guys, Myron? What is your relationship with the Hawks now, based on Brightest Day? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Well, I read Hawks back to the Hawk World miniseries, and that title for quite a while. But I was never a huge Hawkman fan. But I find in stories like Brightest Day, where you get spotlights on different characters, that shining that spotlight on those kind of characters really, they make them far more attractive than had I picked up a book. I probably wouldn't have bought a book before it was a Hawkman book because I didn't have enough exposure. But here, there's enough sprinkling amongst the other characters that there's enough there to make you interested in a book.
Kind of going off of that, and Jim, I'll go to you in a second on this one, but going off of that, Myron, and Jim, I'll ask you the same question when we get to you. I guess with what you're saying as far as characters that, and we've talked about before what characters you might want to see leap out. Is there anybody out of this that you're kind of like right now, I could care less whether or not they get their own series out of this? Is there anybody in Brightest Day that you're... Because I'm kind of open-minded. I'm right now open-minded. Obviously, I want the Hawk series, but I'm open-minded as far as a lot of these characters I would follow into a series. Obviously, they can't launch all of them into a book, but is there anybody right now that you're like, if they went into a book, I probably wouldn't pick it up? And it may be the Hawks for you, for example. Who is there anybody that you're feeling that way, where you're like, I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I would follow them to series?
For me, at this stage, probably Hawk and Dove.
Mm-hmm.
I like them in Birds of Prey, but I don't think I'd buy a book of them by themselves.
So actually having them on a team is actually a good choice by DC, putting them on
For
there.
me as a reader, sure.
Yeah, I like them quite a bit in Birds of Prey as well. I think they work in a team dynamic. That's my preference right now because I think they add something fresh to the birds and a cool opportunity to kind of have the birds play off of them. And in many ways, I think we get to know the birds better just by their interactions with them. Jim, what about you? First of all, the relationship with the Hawks. How is this series improved at all? Has it kind of left it where it was? What are your feelings on those characters?
Coming into this, man, I was a little Hawkamaniac. I was understanding. You know what? I understood your passion. I understood your fire. I started really digging the characters. I've gone back and reread, Shadow War of the Hawk once more, and now that I've, even a stronger grips of the characters, I like it even more now. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And I laugh at myself when some of the comments I made, even just a couple, because we reviewed it twice for the show. And, so just rereading it on my own, I was like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that it was really written strong for the strong Hawk fans. And as I'm becoming a stronger fan, I understood some of the stuff. I got the, where they were going with it. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is really cool. So definitely Brightest Day is something that had me, just a little bit more information. You talked about how it's kind of like a refresher course and or revamping of the Hawk origin and who's the big bad, what we're going to deal with. It's definitely something that's charged me up for the Hawks, and really hardcore would go right into another series for this. And this would be even one of those where if we weren't getting a series, I would actually, would stand up and say, hey, why aren't we getting a series? We're seeing in the hands of a good writer how these characters can be used. So I would actually even fight for them to get their own series. Granted, I don't have to fight because it's coming, but if it wasn't coming, these are characters I would fight for. Just like I would have fought for Aquaman, Mira, and Aqualad to get their own story because I was so passionate about how she was coming across, especially her. But even Arthur with her, I was like, I want a series out of those. Those are two characters that I'm passionate for that we should get more out of this. I got to co-sign what you guys said about Hawk and Dove. Really cool characters, especially love them on Birds of Prey just because their interaction with the team. We got Gale writing them, so there's going to be some cool stuff going on that way. And I think they're strong team members. They're good to be part of it. If they had their own series, I probably would give it a try.
Me too. But
it would all depend on creative team and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't fight for them to get their own series.
No, I actually, and I do agree with that adamantly. I actually think if they were going to do anything with them, miniseries would be the better route to go, which I don't know that I see a lot of sense of right now because I'm really, and I think for me, they tend to be the ones that I'm kind of like, I like where they are. The choice of putting them in the birds, I think, was a good move. I really like the team dynamic with them. I think it's a good way to spotlight them. They add a lot to the book, playing off of characters who I already loved. So I think it's just a really good move for those characters, and it's a great fit. And I think some characters, there's a lot of characters right now that I'd like to see in team books. There's not enough team books to put all the characters I'd like to see on teams, which is a good thing too, because there's opportunities when a team book gets a little stale, yank out a couple people, throw in some of those characters. You can't have every character in a universe in a book. That's just kind of the reality of it. Is there anybody else, Jim, that you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm too anxious to see them go into anything after this? I'm just enjoying them here.
I don't know. I fire hot and cold on Deadman sometimes. He's a character that I'm getting a better understanding of who he is and kind of deal now, because I really didn't read too much about him before this, so I fire hot and cold. I think he's another character that, if they were to say we have this new Deadman series, I would probably check it out, but I'm not. It's another character I'm not, going to passionately fight for, and say this is somebody who should have their series. But granted, who knows where this could end, with just some phenomenal storytelling with him, and I could be maybe completely change my mind on it. So it's, we're at 13 issues out of 26, so we're halfway point. Who knows where this is going to end up finally? So, it's right now, I would say those are the two out of this that I'm not, hardcore fighting on. Firestorm is somebody I'd like to see something with him, and John's another guy I'd love to see something come on with both. With both of them. I probably would support a solo book on those two. But I think they would. For me, I would like to see them in the team books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think there's some opportunities for those to launch into team books as well. And then if they do well in the team book, to launch out. Deadman's an interesting one, too, and I'm glad you brought that up. Or Alive Man, whatever you want to call him. I think what I'm really digging about him in this is kind of his whole... It's funny when we talk about Superman on Walkabout and Grounded. We got kind of Dead Alive Man on Walkabout through the DC Universe, jumping between the various characters that are connected on some level to Brightest Day in this quest. I think if you did a series with him, how it would have to work, and what I would love to see with him is kind of a continued walkabout through the DC Universe, where not single issues, where you would do arcs. Like, I love seeing this relationship building between him and Hawk and Dove, and there being some point in time, for whatever reason, that needs to end. And he needs to go somewhere else. Almost kind of like what Bill Bixby used to do in the Hulk, kind of like how he traveled around. Because I like seeing him as kind of... It's funny, with the nature of his character, I shouldn't think this, but I feel like he's an everyman. And I really am enjoying seeing him just be kind of like this average Joe who... is kind of trying to find his place in all of this. And it makes me feel like, I think if I was plopped into the DC Universe, I would be feeling like him. These people who are established as heroes and they know their role and what they're doing, and I would be trying to find that place. And I find that interesting about him. So I think that's where I'm with you. I run kind of like hot and cold on like what I'd like to see from him after this. But I think that's what I'd like to see. And I don't know that it necessarily needs to be limited to just him being on Earth either. We could see him kind of exploring... I think you've got endless possibilities. You just kind of let him romp around the DC Universe, from anywhere from the Great 10 to all around America to wherever. I think that's interesting. I like him a great deal. It's funny, talk about Hawk and Dove. I like him a great deal with Hawk and Dove. That's a story that I am 13 more issues. We're in 13 issues right now. We're at the halfway point. I am anxious to see more of that relationship for the second half of the book, especially him with Dove, because I find that very interesting. And it's clear that he has feelings for her. I don't know that they're necessarily romantic feelings. It's more of friendship, even almost brother-like, even more so than I get from Hawk, who really seems like the jealous boyfriend versus the big brother figure in all this. And I like how that dynamic's playing out. So I guess it's funny, the more we talk about this, or the more I'm spouting out what I'm liking about Alive Man, I'm like, I don't know, I agree totally with you on Martian Manhunter and Firestorm, and I'd like to see them in team books. But I don't know, Alive Man, if they sell the premise right, he could be a cool book. You've really got to get that writer, though, that it's got to be different than anything else that's out there right now. And it's got to capture this feel of this everyman that you're hanging with. I don't care whether he's alive or dead or whatever route they go with him after this, if he can leap into bodies again or do however they're going to do this with him. Whatever route it goes with him, it's got to be this, because I'm really digging, just kind of his walkabout. It's not a walkabout. I mean, and I'm really, I shouldn't, it's not the same as what Superman's doing. He's on a quest that is a definite goal. But I still like that it's led him on this journey where he's encountered and had some really strong character development interactions with these people that makes him feel like an average Joe.
Now, if Dead Man's on a walkabout, shouldn't we be yelling, "Dead Man walking"?
Well, live man walking in this case.
Or do we call it Walking Dead? But that's kind of taken.
Yeah.
I've always thought a Dead Man is the kind of character that a writer like a Neil Gaiman style writer would really take that character to places that you'd never think he'd go.
That's, you know what what you just said right there, if you look back at the way the Sandman series was crafted, where you had these huge arcs that like were completely interconnected. You had Dream and all those characters, but a lot of people don't realize the Sandman himself as a character was not always an actual main character in the series. He would kind of pop in and out, or sometimes just be like kind of an overarching connecting thread to keep the series together. There were whole arcs where you were following characters who these things were happening to, that just happened to have interactions with characters from the Dreaming. So yeah, what you just said is actually a great example of what I would see working for, set in the DC universe. It doesn't, and I'm not saying it has to be a Vertigo title, set in the DC universe, but that kind of theme where there's like a big long arc, like what I'm talking about here with Hawk and Dove. Like you've got, this is going to be a 26 issue story. So take a look at how many issues you've actually had of Hawk and Dove and Deadman together. Kind of put them together when this is all over and done with. And I'm guessing, that's kind of what I'm saying. That take an arc like that, and then you move on to a new story with him. And he just happens to be a part of it all. And I think there's room for that kind of book, but Sandman is a great comparison of the kind of storytelling I'm talking about with this character that I think would work.
And here's the funny thing, as soon as you said that, right there, I would fight for that. I would fight, and I was completely, I'm, kind of, hot and cold on him. If I were to hear that, Gaiman was doing a Deadman series, I would be all over it just because of his writing style with what could be with the character kind of deal. So I would, it's funny. As soon as you said that, I'm like, okay, right there, that would pull me in.
I definitely like him to be a focal point character. So I guess that would be my change from something like Sandman. But exactly what Myron just said there, that's exactly the type of writing, with this big huge arc, and then you can move on to a new story with the character afterwards where he's in a new place, and not just for an issue. I don't want to, I mean, there might be reasons to do a one shot issue here and there, but a larger arc with him in a new place for a reason, and that storyline continuing with some deep development. Kind of a cool way to see the DC universe again, I think, through an everyman. And I think his fish out of water nature is really something that I'm finding compelling. So I guess I'm going to talk myself into. I guess I'm not as wishy-washy about Deadman as I thought. I'm a lot more excited about this character. Where he's up there with Aquaman. I want Deadman in the series. It's got to be the right kind of series. So, but I would say the same thing with Aquaman. I don't want Aquaman in just any old book. It's a lot of what we're reading here with Aquaman. This kind of writing for Aquaman. So Brightest Day, I think, for those two characters in particular, a great launching point for putting these characters into a series that should follow thematically the style that I think we're seeing laid out in this book for these characters. I think this is really, if there's a zero issue for anybody's book, it should be these two, and they can go right from there. The Hawks, I've already won that victory, so I'm not going to even put them in that category anymore, because I'm getting that. But, and I would put them in equally in that category, especially after this issue, which I'm glad right now, because before I've almost been kind of apologetic. I'm not talking enough about the Hawks because, I love that this issue just had me so motivated to say, I've really got to start spouting some stuff about the Hawks because issue 13 was just plain awesome. So it really is. It just goes to show how great writers can take some characters and just get you really reinvigorated about them again and just excited. It's funny, Myron was talking about Hawkworld before. I read Hawkworld when it came back out in the 80s, that the Prestige format, when those issues came out. It was funny, talk about how, and this kind of goes along with what you said before, Jim, when I got really hooked into Hawkman in the JSA, I went back and pulled out, after I got into him again, those issues of Hawkworld, and then the Hawkman series, the Hawkworld series that came afterwards. And it's funny, I loved them at the time. I thought the visual presentation was cool, but I wasn't as jacked into the whole Hawkman concept as I am now. Going back, feeling like I do now, and reading those issues, they have taken on a whole new tone for me. I appreciate it. I always liked it. I appreciate it on a whole new level now because of, and I think it's one of the cool things about this all being interconnected with the Hawks, how everything that happened from the Hawks before actually happened. Now all of these stories, I look at them with fresh eyes, that these are really things that happened to this Carter, who I really like. And that's something where it's It's well worth for anybody that's really into the Hawks right now, if you have any of the old Hawks storytelling, it's well worth if you go back and start thinking of it as past lives for these characters. It adds a whole new dynamic to reading those issues, and it really, it made me take a whole bunch of stuff that I bought back in the 80s and look at it with fresh eyes, and they're brand new stories to me now because I'm seeing them differently because of it. And it was a great example of, and this issue is one of those that I actually read Hawk World again last week because of this. I was out sick from work for 2 days with the flu bug, so I was reading some stuff, and I'm like, I really feel like reading some Hawkman related stuff. So I went back through and I read Hawk World last week, and then I got this issue, and it's been like this whole just great like Hawk vibe that's been going on for me. So it's totally awesome. But it's interesting to talk about which characters that we want to see flesh out of this. And that's stayed pretty consistent all the way through in when we've had these discussions previously. Actually, Myron, let me ask you that. Aquaman, yay, nay, not really quite sure yet.
I'm really digging what they're doing with Aquaman and Mera. And I think what they've done with the Mera relationship to Aquaman has added a depth to those characters that I think is pretty long overdue.
Do you see that character launching into a solo book, a team book? Not really quite sure where he should wind up yet. Where are you at on that?
I think it could be a solo book, but a lot of it's going to come down to getting the right writer.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true for all these characters.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
You filthy criminals.
Guys, did it come across that I like the Hawks?
Yeah, a little bit. A little. You were kind of subtle in it, and it was kind of hidden. But, the message is out there. I think longtime listeners will pick up the little, idiosyncrasies, the little hints you threw out there.
Sometimes I get a little bit worried about that I don't really say enough, or, don't bring out the whole idea that I think that they're really cool characters, so...
I think the fact that if they played the episode backwards, they just hear the word Hawkman a million times, they would probably pick up on it.
Carter Hall, reincarnation. Carter Hall, reincarnation. Yeah. Kendra, not Kendra. Kendra, not Kendra.
You really need to get wings and stuff like that, and
yes,
you need to get those. It's because I can just imagine you just putting it on just to sit and play games or read or something, just to kind of enjoy and just relax. And
well, I have a Hal Jordan outfit now. I would love, the reason why I have a Hal Jordan outfit is because there's not an easy Hawkman outfit to buy.
Yeah.
Because we did a surprise birthday party for a friend, and it wasn't supposed to be a costume party, but we went in costumes anyway. So we all dressed as superheroes. And I dressed as Green Lantern, so I have a Hal Jordan outfit now, which... maybe one of these days when you come over, Jim, I'll be wearing it. I don't know. It'll be when you least.
God.
It'll be when you least. It'll be when you least expect it. You'll walk into the room and record. Wait a minute, what the?
Okay, make mental note, Jim. Always carry your camera on you.
Actually, there's a picture on my Facebook of it, so you can actually see this. So it's nothing. There's nothing hidden about it. There's a lot of padding in the front of it. Some of these superhero costumes, I don't understand how they make them. There's this, chest pad in this thing that, when I sat down in the car, my chest was, up in my jaw. I'm sitting here, if I'm fighting crime, as long as I'm standing and running after people, I'm all right. But the second I sit down, I'm like a liability.
They do that, Sean, because not everybody has a chiseled physique like I do, so you got to have that extra padding to give that appearance of the correct superhero physique.
But see, this is the problem. This is where it became kind of, you talked about Walking Dead before. This is where it becomes kind of zombie-like. It looked like I was wearing somebody else's chiseled physique. Yeah. Actually, I really liked the costume, and it's if you see me from the front, it looks great. You see me from the side, it looks like I've literally got somebody else's chest cavity on top of mine. And there's no way, that it wouldn't have looked better, at least having, it does look good from the front. So that's just it. If I'm going to fight crime in this outfit, I can't do it from the side or the back. I've got to always be facing everybody.
Well, that's your weakness. Front-on assaults only.
That's right. And then my posing for cameras has got to be always from that dynamic perspective from the frontal view. Okay. Anyway, Green Lantern number 58. Weird tangents. Hope for Adara. It really was funny. We were debating which Green Lantern book to talk about next because we didn't know if we were going to get to Green Lantern Corps and Green Lantern both on this episode, just because of time-wise. And we'll definitely talk about if we don't get to both. It was a tough choice, though, and I really love that that's a problem because I think it's a consistent problem across all three books. I couldn't tell you right now which one's my favorite, and it's only because of the high quality of the creative teams. And you've got three different writers working on these books and three very different art teams. And yet it all feels like the Green Lantern universe. I think this is just a great example of a line of books. I've been bat happy right now. I'm thrilled with the condition of the Bat universe right now and the way everything's working out with that. I think the quality there has been top notch. This is a universe, though, that, whoa, being that I'm more of a Batman guy, the Green Lantern books are just batting 1,000. I mean, these are just exciting every single month. There is no way these books would be on the chopping block for me, any of them. I mean, like, if I had to drop one Green Lantern book right now, I would have a tough time choosing because I'd feel like I was really missing something big in the Green Lantern story. Yet they're all contained in and of themselves. I like that they're not, they don't really have to cross over. You feel thematically they're connected. But I do feel like I would be missing a major piece of the Green Lantern universe puzzle by not reading one of them.
Oh, amen. Yeah, I tell you, it's... see, each one has, we're talking about just the different creative teams, the different strengths, and it's funny when I look at a book, sometimes I'll look strengths and weaknesses of a book, and this is 100%, just straightforward. I can't really see weaknesses on these books. I don't see things where I'm like, I wish they did this. Every time I'm reading these things, these are always my Thursday, night reads, my, oh, cool, this is going to be a neat one, just because of just the nature of it. And this issue right here, again, it's Hal Jordan's book, but Hal's not the only central focus of the character. Where this is some great Sinestro moments, some great Atrocitus moments, and then we get the entity for Hope in there as well. So it's like everything is playing out in here. I'm like, dang, this is cool.
You know what I like that we're seeing, and this is something I think it's a strength of the Green Lantern books as well, we're starting to see in all of the books various members of different corps as it fits into the story. So we've got, one Red Lantern here, Atrocitus. And yes, Atrocitus is thematically being felt right now in the Emerald Warriors book by the fact that he's got one of his agents there, but he's not appearing in there at the moment. So it's really cool to kind of see different members of different corps being spotlighted in these various books where they fit into storytelling. So seeing Atrocitus here, and it is funny how this character in a very short period of time has, to me, become just as powerful of a figure as Sinestro. I really do feel like Atrocitus is just as dynamic and just as well developed a character as a leader of the Red Lantern Corps. So when I see the two of them standing there together, I'm like, ooh, these are some serious heavy hitters in this book. And that's a strength. I also want to make one little quick comment before we kind of jump further heavy in this issue. We see Sinestro in stereo this month, in the sense that we see Tyler Kirkham, Bat as the inker, and Nia Ruffino on colors in the Green Lantern Corps, and see a really cool presentation of Sinestro there. Equally cool is the presentation of Doug Mahnke on pencils, Christian Almay, Keith Champagne, and Doug Mahnke on inks with Randy Mayer on colors. Two different creative teams. We got different from the pencils to the inks to the colors, yet thematically it feels very Green Lantern, while at the same time each book has a unique feel, tone, and flavor to them. And it was something I thought the Sinestro appearances this month in particular, I think both books captured in his appearance and his look, especially when we see him sitting there, even just in this moment where we see him, it is rage. We see Atrocitus standing there in the front saying that, but you see Sinestro in the background with that smug, pompous, I'm bad and I know it look on his face, and knowing that he can back it up in those moments. And it isn't just about, violence with him. It's an intelligence. He feels he's smarter. He feels, all of these different aspects to him. I love the way that this all plays out. Even in the way, like, Atrocitus is more in your face. Sinestro, it's more of a, I'm going to subtly walk away from you, and, if you're pulling a weapon on me, look what I'm going to do to you. So, don't play this game with me. I'm constantly in control. And there's not a change in posture or presentation or the way he walks in that segment. Or I'll point back in that moment. I loved the visual presentation of this book all the way through. And I love just kind of seeing that consistent tone throughout the books in the Green Lantern universe. And I think it's something the art teams throughout, and we've seen some changes in the Green Lantern books with the art teams, throughout the recent years. But I think that's something that you can consistently say about a Green Lantern book. You pick it up, you're going to get a really cool art team with a great presentation. And that's something that I really love, that even though they've changed, I've never lost that feel.
Yeah, and it's funny, when we were talking Emerald Warriors before, we didn't really talk about, the art team. We did talk about some of the cool stuff and how, how looked neat, how Babar had that calming look to him and all that. But colorists for the Green Lantern titles for me are always those things that I wish we keep mentioning and keep talking about, because I love how the colors pop and how they just bam hit you with that, whether it's the bright green, the bright red rage, or even some of the cool usage of that yellow, in all three of these titles. Just I love seeing that in these books, and it's something that the colorist usually in a green title is going to be one of my those colors that I'm like, dang, this looks awesome.
Because the colorist is the same in Emerald Warriors. It actually is Randy Mayer with it's Gabe ELT. It's either R or EB, and I apologize. I think it's A. I'm sorry, I take it back. I'm sorry, it's ELTAEB, and I apologize on that. Were the colorists on that particular issue. But I did mention earlier, one of the things that I thought was a strength, right, setting the tone early on in that issue of Emerald Warriors, was the fact that if it wasn't for the visual tone of what was going on with Guy, something would have been lost there for me. It really set this horrifying, and it set that whole psychological presence of what was going on in this story. And I wanted to make sure before we kicked into, because I agree with you, I don't think we talked about it enough during our discussion about Emerald Warriors, just how visually pleasing, from, you're right, straight on through from pencilers to inkers to colorists, the Green Lantern books have been. And there's a consistency there that I think is just really, the Green Lantern's become, I think, very much the titles that we talk about when we talk about Superman, we talk about Batman, we talk about Wonder Woman. Green Lantern's right up there. Top quality DC title. And the sales numbers are showing that for the Green Lantern books. Yes. They've stayed consistently high, even, with Brightest Day going on right now. Realistically, the main events of Brightest Day are going on in the Brightest Day title, but the Green Lantern books are not losing any steam in their presence. And they're consistently books that are delivering great storytelling, great art. And as a fan who, what DC character are you? I'm a Batman guy. I feel just as giddy when a Green Lantern book comes out right now as I do when a Batman book comes out. And these are books that I just think are really delivering a home run. And this is very cool. Myron, you've got a whole blog going right now, the blog of OA, because of your love for the Green Lantern books. And for you, you've got to be on cloud 9 getting 3 great Green Lantern titles every month. Did you ever see a day where we'd be getting this? 3 Green Lantern books with this kind of quality?
No, it's funny. Back a long time ago, back before Emerald Twilight and so on, you had several titles. You had Guy Gardner had his own book. John Stewart had the Mosaic title, plus you had the regular Green Lantern book, and then you had Green Lantern Corps Quarterly, but the quality wasn't quite as consistent as it is now. And it's amazing to see how bringing the whole mythology back has really been rejuvenating everything about those characters that I've loved for years. And I, to tell you how bad it is for me, I don't wait till I get home to read the books. When I pick them up from my comic shop, I sit in my car out in the parking lot and read them.
Do you know how many times I've done that, going to the comic shop? Where I'll go to the comic shop and I'll sit out in the parking lot and I'll start, even if I don't read it cover to cover, I'll page through it cover to cover. Start looking at the art, looking at the story, things like that. I can't just pick up the books at the comic shop and just start driving home. I do the same thing. And even, when I get my books through, a lot of my books through mail now, actually most of them, but I do still frequent the comic shops, and every time I do what you just said, that's consistently, I get into the car, anything I picked up at the comic shop, I do that as well. That's one of the great things about the comic shop experience, I think it is. I spend more time in my car reading when I've been at a comic shop than I think any time, because I don't do it any other time. I'm going to go in my car and read. I do it in a comic shop, though, so it's not, what you're saying is not so odd. I wonder how many, have you ever done that, Jim?
Oh, yeah. College days, when I used to go to, the one comic shop that was, it's walking distance from the college, So, I could get there, but it was usually a hike, pretty good, healthy hike to get there. So I would sit there, get my comics, and it was a regular kind of newsstand as well. He had tables and all that stuff, and I'd sit down right there in the shop and just read what I just bought. And, it's a couple times, you're just sitting there like, let me read this before, get a couple issues in, or, do something before I make the trek back to, campus.
I would love a local comic shop that was like a coffee shop-ish, kind of like you could say, what you just talking about, where it was like kind of a newsstand with a lounge and that type of thing. I would love one where you kind of like what Borders are and things like that now, where you've got that little cafe or something like that, where you could like just sit and hang out and read some books, but set up in such a way where it's a social gathering. You could like sit and hang out, and I'd like to see more of that developed. I think there's a social aspect to comics that I think could become real cool with a comic like cafe kind of thing going on. That I think would be a lot of fun in a comic shop to be able to sit there and do that. I would love to do that every week on Wednesday. Just go hang out with some friends and chat comics at the comic shop. Or, tell people to shh, I'm reading. But it was funny when you were sitting there, when you were first telling your story about how you're walking across the college campus, and I was like wondering, I'm like, how is this leading to cars? I'm like, did you get into somebody else's car to read? Or like, where's Jim going with this story? It's like, I didn't have a car, but, it was such a long distance and all that. And, I'd get my books, and I was like waiting for, I'm like, what, did you get in somebody else's car and they had to kick you out? It is funny, though. I think, it is one of those mediums where you get excited to find out what's going on with the story. Where is it continuing? So, those top tier books, when I grab them, you talk about, Jim, your Thursday night reads and stuff like that. It really is the books when you tear open that box, you've got to read right away. And no matter how late, I've come home at nights before where, I'm coming home at 12 o'clock at night or something like that because I had something after work. And then, it's like literally I should be going to sleep. And I've got to read at least a couple of the comics that are in my stack because they're there. Yeah. And I will literally stay up at least another hour. And it starts off with, I'm just going to read this one, or I'm just going to read these two. And 5 books later.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, look at the time.
Yeah. But comics are not a good thing for me to fall asleep reading. Because I think just with the visual presentation and everything, I get so excited that I can't go to sleep reading them. Whereas I love reading novels, but novels will gradually put me to sleep. And that's not a knock on the novel. I think it's just a different kind of reading experience. I don't have that with comics as often. They don't put me to sleep as much. And maybe I should try to read them in my car at night. I don't know. Maybe I'll fall asleep.
Please do. And don't explain to Mariah what you're doing. Just grab a stack of comics, walk out to the car, and just start reading, and just to see what her reaction is.
Well, she'd probably prefer it because of the book light. Because I, at nighttime, I'll put on the book light in bed and I'll start reading, paper after paper of comics. And eventually one of the cats will wake up and start sitting on my back, and then it'll get tired of that and start walking on her. And the cat would be sleeping under any other circumstances, except for the fact that I'm reading comics. So eventually the cat gets up because the cat's curious. And then I've got to go through this whole battle of don't you dare sit on my comics or even try to sit on my comics battle. So needless to say, imagine trying to sleep next to this scenario that I just set up right now. So my wife is a saint.
See, and here's me thinking that when you're talking about your reading, you're in your office reading.
No.
There. I wasn't thinking you were sitting in bed, keeping your wife awake.
Dude, there's not a room in my house I don't read comics in. But at nighttime, like when I'm trying to go to sleep, right? I want to read some comics and stuff. I've got a booklet. I've got this whole great way I handle it. I'll take a board out and I'll clip it onto a book light. And, I'll take an issue of Green Lantern. Wait, this issue right now of Green Lantern that I'm talking about, 58. Where did I read this? I read this in bed using a backing board as, my book light kind of stand. Because the book lights are meant to be clipped onto like a hardcover book or a paperback. So I clip it onto, a backing board. And then I'll flip the book open on it. I'll be sitting there reading. And I do battle with my cat to finish the comic. I earn it. I earned the right to finish that story. But my poor wife has got to sleep next to this.
Saint Mariah is just so appropriate for her.
Yeah. But that Green Lantern's so good.
It's funny though. I would never have thought I would live to see a day where we have a major motion picture coming out.
Yeah,
an animated series. My wife is a little concerned about the amount of money I'm going to be spending next year.
Oh, it's crazy because both of those I'm going to want on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah.
When they come out the animated series, I'm going to want the complete season. I'm going to want the same thing with the film because all the extras and stuff like that. But even be able to watch the episodes over and over again.
Well, sure. And if they release it in 3D, you want to have a better TV to watch it in 3D with.
Yeah, that's an argument. I'm just not going to. Do you know what it took for me to get an HD television in the living room? I used to have an HD television in my office. That was my way to get, I used it as a monitor in the office. I had this really long battle to get HD in the living room because she didn't see this. She liked the cabinet that our TV was in. Because and in all fairness to her, the cabinet was a cool cabinet. But, I finally won that battle and got an HD TV down there. If you think there's any way I'm winning a 3D television battle right now, it's just not happening. But that's one that, oof. That would be one of those movies that would get me to want to watch it in 3D. I know probably the new Batman's going to be in 3D as well. So
the next time I'm over, you don't want me to go up to Mariah. Oh, I hear you're getting a 3D TV.
Well, you can go up and say it. I'd love to see her reaction. Just to see maybe that'll be the way. Maybe that's baby steps. In a decade from now, I'll have one.
Oh, okay.
So what you have to do is find something that she's really passionate about that's coming out in 3D.
Yeah, see, that won't work. Because then it'll be like, we'll just go to the theater for that. Which, honestly, I'm a big theater goer. So I would agree with her argument on that. I actually do like going to the films to see the 3D film. It's just I want it at home, too.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, my wife and I are both big Harry Potter fans, and we haven't gone to see a Harry Potter movie in the theater for a while. And I was all excited about the one coming out next week, the first part of the Deathly Hallows. And she's like, wow, why are you so excited about seeing a Harry Potter film? Now the books are over with. We've been waiting until they come out on Blu-ray. And I of course had to chime in and say, well, it isn't so much the movie, it's the trailer and the front of the movie because that's where the Green Lantern trailer is going to be. And of course, she rolls her eyes and is like, oh, okay, I get it now.
But is Harry Potter in 3D?
No. So the trailer won't be in 3D.
See, that's one of the things I've been loving about some of the 3D movies is the trailers are in 3D as well, which has been pretty cool. I forget what movie I saw last that had that. Jackass. I saw Jackass, and all the trailers before Jackass were in 3D, which is really kind of cool. So that's pretty neat. Anyway, back to Green Lantern.
Whoa, holy tangents, Batman.
Tangent, yeah. 3D televisions were about Green Lantern on 3D televisions. How are we going to get that swag? But Myron's might be a little bit closer than I am to it. Atrocitus, though. Here's one of the things I really loved. When the Red Lanterns were introduced, I really thought they were going to be these, almost like Hulk-like, barbaric, rage-filled creatures without any moral compass. It was all about their rage. I love that the rage, he really is looking at this atrocity right here of these murderers. Why are they still around? And this is something that to him is an affront. And it's an affront to his code and to what he's all about at his core. And I love that aspect to him that there's almost in a weird way, and I don't want to, this might sound a little strange, but there's a certain sense of a nobility or something to him because of that, if that makes sense. I get him. I'm not saying that I aspire to be like Atrocitus, but as opposed to the brute that I saw him as earlier, I guess is what I'm really getting at here. I see him as something more because of that, and that emotion means something, and there is something to it that is just as interesting as willpower in a different way. I would not want to be a Red Lantern in a million years. Sputing that stuff out, if anything, the dental bills in itself has got to be crazy. But there is something about them that I find really intriguing now in a deep level, the more that we see what drives their rage and what their issues are and what they focus on and how there are things that further fire that you can kind of get. I'm looking at him, I'm like, he's right. I'm like, what is the point to all this? And he's really doing a lot of the things that we all sit there and say, why doesn't somebody do that? Well, he does it.
Yeah.
So you can't argue all the time with Atrocitus. And I didn't expect to see him in that light or to see him in that way. And it's something that I think that the development of this character, and it's one of the things that I like about the core. I think they've become incredibly interesting because it's not a matter of plopping down the ring on him and saying he's angry. There's more to it than that. And it's very deep, and it's very well thought out. And he is just as different from the members of his corps as Guy Gardner is from Kilowog, or from Salak, or any of the other ones. It's there's something individual and unique about each of those corps members, and that's something that really I have no idea how long it took them to craft each of these lanterns, and I'm sure that that's still an ongoing process, of constantly further developing these characters. But getting at the core root early on, when Jeff Johns was like making out a little map, and I know he worked with other people on it, but when they were kind of like looking at, hey, we're going to do this, and Jeff Johns was saying, hey, let's bring in all these colors and let's do that, and brought in friends, and they started laying it out. What that must have looked like, and what that process was as far as fleshing that out. There's got to be like some form of template for what originally it looked like. And I'm sure it evolved over time, as these things should. But wow, did he craft something interesting here? Because Atrocitus, to me, this whole issue, a character who before, when the first Red Lanterns were first introduced, I was kind of like, all I wanted to do is see the green guys beat them up. Now I want to learn more about them. I care about what's going on with the Red Lanterns. And Atrocitus has become a character that I enjoy following. I would follow him into one-shots. I'd follow him into a miniseries. If there was a reason to do a Red Lantern series, I would follow it. I think there's enough to do with these characters. They're interesting enough. There's a stopping point. I don't think they can. There's a point where how many books are you going to launch? But
they did say, Jeff Johns did say there was another book coming, and it was going to focus on a different one of the cores.
So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the Red. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised, just because you've got, they're going to be the main villains in the animated series, and there's been such a response. But, yeah, Jeff Johns did let it slip at New York Comic Con that there was going to be another new book, and it was going to feature one of the other cores of the Spectrum, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was Red.
Is there a core that you think couldn't carry a book?
The Indigo Tribe would be a little difficult to read.
Knock, 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 knock. I gotta be honest with you. I would read that book month in, month out, and that's one I wouldn't read that in my car. I'd try to find the most public place in the world to read that book. Tell me, it would be great somebody looking over your shoulder. What the heck is this guy reading? Knock, knock, nick, knock, 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 knock. That would be, I think, one of the greatest books in the world to read around people. Yeah, I'm a comic book reader, and I got to be honest with you. I learned how to speak through comics. I learned how to read all of big words. I was learning through comics. All the things we say to defend comics, and then you sit there and read the Indigo book in front of somebody.
You hand it to somebody who wants to read a comic and say, "Here, try this one out."
Yeah, it's great. You'll love it. It's especially great if the translations were in the back, and you had to figure out as you were reading it. That would be a great issue. I would love an issue.
You got to just go by what the images are going on, what is happening is where you eventually would figure out what's going on. And after a couple issues, you would start to actually probably speak the language and understand what's being said. Just from knowing that anytime they do this, they say nook, knock, nook. Okay, that probably means something like this. And I think that would be a really fun series just to deal with that kind of stuff.
That's the DC Universe's Klingon.
Yeah, maybe they'd come with an Indigo decoder ring.
Wait, what the scary part is? The more we're talking, this started off as a sick joke. Now I'm sitting here saying, this actually sounds really cool. I would buy this. Yeah. So we were actually in the beginning saying that the book wouldn't wash. You give me an Indigo book month in, month out with an Indigo decoder ring where I can go back through and do this. I got to be honest with you. I don't know that I'm not buying that book.
Suddenly this becomes a viable option for DC Comics.
And it'll be another one where we go, with the right writer.
You know that when this episode comes out, Gail Simone will send an MP3 of this to Dan Didio and say, look what these idiots are talking about.
You want to read a book where they're going knock, 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 and they'll buy a decoder ring from you. And
see, for me, the series I wouldn't want to see is Star Sapphire. I don't know if it's just I've lost that loving feeling or...
Wow. I almost want to say just on general principle that I want to buy the book now just because you said that. I actually will agree with that, though. I don't I like her interactions and the Star Sapphire's interaction. Like, I'm loving Brightest Day that there's a thread interconnecting them. I'm liking her interactions with Hal. I'm liking how they influence the other characters. But I would read a mini or a one-shot with them, as far as if, there's a way to expand their storytelling. But as far as a monthly ongoing, I don't know if I would get the Dakota Ring Indigo book first.
Yeah, I would get the Indigo over. All joking aside, I would take Indigo.
Well, if they didn't do the Star Sapphire book very well, they'd give Love a bad name.
But it's funny because I'm thinking about the Indigo book even more so now. I'm thinking about we got Black Hand in there, and he would be the only one that would speak English, or does he speak anything in there? I forget.
He was mumbling and just kind of. He's a brain dead.
Yeah, well, and I honestly would be mumbling a lot too if I were knock 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 knock. But
well, one of the things they said at New York was the Indigo know he has to stay alive.
Right.
But, it doesn't mean that he has to be comfortable. He's suffering with what they're doing to him and through that process, but he's still alive. So it's,
Which is interesting, fitting what their whole theme is, that they're keeping him in that state. So that's it. I do think there's a lot of storytelling with them. I want to know more about the Indigo tribe. And I think out of all the core, there's a mystery. I'm sorry, go ahead. I
think we're going to see more next month because it says next month the Return of Black Hand. So I think we're going to see a bit about what's going on.
Knock, 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 knock. I'm playing with my lantern rings right now. Do you guys have these things out regularly? Like these?
Okay, it's on my finger right now.
I look at the Star Sapphire one, my green one, the black one. I'm not really doing anything with them other than I'm literally moving them from finger to finger, playing with them. And then I've got I do have the Indigo one. I'm like
I have Indigo on right now.
Do you?
Yeah. As we've been talking about different groups, I've been putting that ring on.
Talk about one of the greatest pack-ins in the world. These little rings was just a great move on their part. Because they're sturdy enough that they're, really, they'll last, quite a long time. Although the way I'm playing with them, I don't know. Sean's rings are very worn down. It's like... Let's move on back to the book.
Now, one of the things I did dig in this opening sequence was, that ending where you see Sinestro and Atrocitus just going back and forth, and Atrocitus is like, hey, those who take life deserve to lose it, and just that final little banter between the two of them that we know a fight is coming. And I loved that Sinestro was like, you're welcome to try. You've given me something to look forward to. I was like, yes. It just, these are two powerhouses. You're not going to intimidate. You're not going to be afraid of each other. It's just not a if we fight. It's a when we fight. And I so want to see this battle.
Well, it's also, you figure with Sinestro's focus on fear, he can't back down in any way, shape, or form or show. I don't think, he can really show true respect. I think he can to a certain extent, in certain amounts of his action, but he can never give up posturing himself. He's got to always be in that position of instilling great fear. Mm-hmm. So that moment so totally fits that. And same thing with Atrocitus, with the rage and the emotion that goes along with that. There's something about the two of them together that, God help us if the two of them ever, really become pals. The Hal and Carol Ferris. It's funny, Jim, one of the things we're obviously not going to be able to talk about this right now, there's that Howard Chaykin Batman Catwoman story that just came out, the one-shot. And one of the things I really loved about that one-shot is it, without going too spoiler-filled on it, it focused so much, because I just reread it again because you had mentioned it in our conversation on the phone the other day. It focused so much on what works about their relationship together. And it is not just about how they get along, but it's also the natural part when you're two different people, the ways that you don't, and how your past history a lot of times will come up, even when you're getting along, because Carol and Hal right now are basically getting along, and they have a lot in common right now with everything that's going on. Yet, there's the things that are different because of the different cores they're in, and their different concerns with relation to what their overall missions are. And there's also their past history that keeps creeping up, which is very natural, very real, and very honest. And yet, I find myself rooting for them. I kind of want to see Cowgirl again sometime soon, just because I really feel like her lack of appearance lately has really shifted my favor towards Carol. Huge. Because I'm seeing the two of them interacting so well and how much I'm enjoying them together, even when they're not always getting along on the same page, that I'm rooting for them. I would like to see Cowgirl, because she was thrown out there as, hey, you got this girl. And I'm like, really? When was the last time we saw her? I always feel like Hal isn't a very good guy to date for Cowgirl.
Nah. Well, it's, the whole, who is he really with? Is he really with Cowgirl? Because before this, there was that strong tie, but once Carol really came back in the picture, Cowgirl started kind of getting pushed off to the side. Mm-hmm. You had Carol dealing with possessions and becoming a Star Sapphire and all that stuff, and you can say, okay, yeah, you can understand why he would go and help this longtime friend from a potentially bad situation, but has he shifted in where he's going and what his objective is? If he goes back to Cowgirl, is Cowgirl going to realize, hey, dude, I know what you've been up to. Don't lie to me about this. If there's any chance here, you got to be upfront and honest. That's the conversation I would like to see, because Cowgirl is that strong enough character and a strong enough person that she would stand toe to toe with Hal Jordan just as easily as Carol Ferris is doing. So I sit there and I throw around who would I like to see Hal with. Carol's got the natural lead just because she's got a ring on her finger, but there is still something about Cowgirl. I do wish she was around.
Well, I don't think Hal is ever the kind of character that's going to have a long-term emotional relationship that's stable. I think he kind of sabotages it himself because of what he saw his mother and father go through. I think that colors the way he deals with all the relationships. I think his relationship with Carol is one of those. It's always going to be a relationship that they want it to happen, but it never will.
And I think she hits the nail on the head here. It's actually where a lot of Hal's defense to Cowgirl would be. Well, not as necessarily his defense, but I think what Cowgirl's learning real fast is that his mission and his job flying off, to handle things as the Green Lantern, is because she throws it in Hal's face. Carol does.
Yeah, she pulls a Hal on Hal.
Yeah, but I think it's very true to what Hal's doing right now anyway, and what Cowgirl could throw right back at him as well.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Actually, this is a little side note. I'm on my desk right now, and there actually is a reason why it's sitting there. I've got a Hostess snowball sitting here. It's in plastic, so it's not just sitting here out in the open or anything, or chasing after me. But one of my kids, and it was the sweetest thing in the world, walked up to me today and just said, "Mr. Whalen, I wanted to give this to you today." So they gave me a Hostess snowball, and I haven't had a snowball since I was maybe 10. I remember having them maybe a little later. I remember my mom would pack stuff like that in my lunch, like Twinkies and Ho-Hos and stuff like that. But there was a short period of time where I remember getting the Hostess snowballs. And have you guys seen the ads in the DC Comics for the Green Lantern glow balls and the Hostess cupcakes, the Flash ones? Mm-hmm. This tells you, again, my students this year, I've really got a great class. I love my kids. I love going to work every day. They're just a great bunch of kids. So this little sweet girl gives me this snowball. What a selfish guy I am that my first thought is, man, I wish it was a glow ball. And I'm sitting here, and she's a total sweetheart. And honestly, I'm, it didn't, don't think me cold and heartless. It totally hit me that I'm sitting here, wow, this is really nice that this kid thought of me enough that they're giving me this type of thing. Because I even asked her, I said, I'm not taking something from your lunch. You got to take that. She said, no, I told my mom this morning and I brought 2. So she brought a second one to bring me a snowball, which I thought that was very cool. So, the whole thing, don't take me as heartless here. I totally, emotionally was connected. I'm like, that is really sweet that this kid thought to do this. It's, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's not an apple. That's cool.
I have to share my pathetic story with you both.
Okay.
I live in a hostess-free zone. This is a hostess wasteland. There are no stores in my area that sells the hostess snack cakes.
Okay.
So I have wanted to get the glow balls once I saw the ads. And my son was going to school in Pittsburgh, and he recently decided to come back home, and it wasn't the right school for him. So I was on the way down to pick him up. So I stopped because once you cross the New York-Pennsylvania border, it seems like every big store carries the Hostess product. So I stopped at every Walmart and grocery store between where I live in Pittsburgh to find glow balls, and could not find them until I went to a Hostess outlet store, and I bought 10 boxes of them.
Did you really?
Yes.
See, now wait, here's the funny part where you're saying how pathetic you are. I'm jealous. here I am. I love my class this year. That's why I wanted to preface that, just to say I love the students this year. I'm sitting, I've got this pink glow ball right here that I'm sitting here. I'm going to, not glow ball. Well, actually, I've got a Star Sapphire glow ball, right? So I'm all right here. Actually, you know what? Now all of a sudden this has become cool again. All right, that's fine. I got a Star Sapphire glow ball.
Here's the thing with me and the snowballs. I'm not a snowball fan because I don't like coconut. You know, the consistency, not the taste. But, you know, it's for me, I have the Superman Twinkies that I've been getting, you know, and just to throw myself as the patheticness of me, I have my, parents buying their 39-year-old son, these Superman Twinkies, Jim will like these, and they're getting
Are there
them
Superman
without me
Twinkies?
even asking.
Wait, it's not just, hold on, just for point of clarification. There's not just Flash and Green Lantern Hostess stuff, there's actually
Yes,
Superman.
they branded the Twinkies with Superman and the Hostess cupcakes with Batman.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, no, the cupcakes, weren't the cupcakes the Flash ones?
They did two versions. They did the regular chocolate ones with Batman and the Flash ones with the red and orange sprinkles on top.
You're right, this is coconut. Because I thought it was just marshmallow.
I built extra drive time in so I could stop for these things. My wife was like, "Why
haven't
not
had one of these in years."
to go and get him?" I'm like, "Well, I got to stop and look for these glow balls." And my wife just rolled her eyes and walked away.
So I could get Batman cupcakes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Superman Twinkies.
Where do
man.
they sell these things? I haven't seen. Are they in the grocery store?
Giant Eagle, yeah.
Giant Eagle has them?
Yeah.
They have all of them?
I believe so.
I'm going to put on like 20 pounds this week. Why are you getting all these snack cakes? Because it's Batman cakes.
I'm like using the GPS on my BlackBerry to find Hostess outlet stores on the way down. That's how desperate I was to find these things.
This is awesome. I mean, it's like snack cakes. Well, you know what? Hostess has such a rich relationship with DC, too, with those cartoons and stuff. You know, with the... This is great at podcasting. I'm eating a snowball and talking about podcast.
Continuing on with the story, we got one of the things I digged was how the entity for Hope came about, and just the appearance of it. Where you start with this kidnapped girl, you got to be a terrible just emotional experience that she's going through. You see the family distraught, and this kid very calmly, very just like, I forgive you. You forgive me for taking me away from my family, for bringing me here. My mother always says we need to forgive those who do wrong. So I forgive you. And I was just like, dang, that is just a cool thing to see, because this is a kid. This isn't an adult. This is a young kid. And I was like, yeah, I could see this connection. I can see this is, why the entity would choose her, why she would be a good mesh. I'd love just seeing this whole ordeal play out. And again, even seeing that she's not just this helpless kid. She's going to try to fight back. She's going to try to get free. But, and that's when the entity arrives. That's when the entity says, okay, you need a little bit of backup here. You need a little bit of boost. I'm here for you. You've been chosen. Bam, jumps right in. And I thought that was just a nice couple pages, really cool look on her face, because that was something that I digged about Babar, I digged about Saint Walker, is that calm look on their face, on any Blue Lantern's face. The way they're drawn, just really soft eyes, and just the expression around that all is well kind of feeling I get that from her, and I get that from this art of her. And I was just like, dang, this is nice.
Dude, oh my God. That was so beautiful.
Oh, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Here I'm trying to buy you some time, figuring, okay, I'll give Sean a chance to eat, swallow, maybe take a couple tips of water so he can flush it out, get everything done. I'm thinking, he'll really appreciate that I'm going with this.
That moment was beautiful. No, it's all kidding aside, though. The kid all the way through, because you've got this kid that goes through this horrible thing, but then she takes on this role. And she seems to find some calm and peace from it as well, which was something that I found that was so interesting. Because I love that, again, this goes back to multi-layer. We talked about this in multiple issues of this multi-layered storytelling where, you sit there and you follow this kid, and it's really, you can reread these issues and focus on different characters, and you really get a very different, rich experience. Like if you're following Atrocitus in one, you got to kind of got that theme going through. A lot of what I just said about Atrocitus, you can say about this kid as well. And I'm curious to see how long she is going to hold on to that entity, that role for her, or if that's going to be stripped from her as, what Mini-Midge is taking on and capturing these entities. If that's something that's going to become a problem for her, will it be taken away from her the same way that Sodom Yacht lost Ion, for example? I don't know. But so far, I like the kid, and I loved that whole theme. And I love that there was kind of a reason for her to gain that role. I liked that we got to see her story unfold.
Yeah, and they didn't have to go too long into it. We got a good glimpse of it. Her story isn't done yet. I'm kind of torn on whether I want to see her separated. Because on one hand, if we separate her from the entity, that means she's back with her family and everything's happy that way. On the other hand, I think she's an interesting character to be the host for Hope, and I'd like to see where that plays out. So I'm torn because one would be really good for her family, one would be really good for me, the reader. So I'm kind of greedy in that I want a cool story for me. So forget her parents.
I actually really liked, though. Speaking of forgetting her parents, I liked that they weren't forgotten. Because I like this little moment where she says, "I can hear my parents' hope filling their hearts, and the hearts of those around them. They're so happy I'm okay. There's so much hope down below." And, that obviously goes to the comic relief, being over there with, "Oh, you're a funny-looking creature." And just how great was that moment? I just really, really like how there's this interesting shift of these moments where she actually latches on to something he might need hope with. That his parents still miss him. So we know that there's more to Larfleeze' story. There's actually a backstory to Larfleeze that we don't know yet. Not as fully fleshed out as we think. And there's a character who's completely fascinating.
Oh, big time. And I like seeing these little glimpses and pieces of him. Just when he's dealing with that kid who had merged temporarily with his entity, and he knows Larfleeze's real name, and that just throws him over the edge because that's his secret. That's his own thing. He can't have that. He can't have what's his. And I just like seeing him just lash out. And again, it's Larfleeze is just he's the comic relief, and he has that funny moments, but there are still some serious sides to him. There's still going to be something more we're going to get. It's kind of like how some of the stuff we were talking about Guy earlier, where we have Guy, we have the funny moments, we have just the one-liners throwing out the Babar, but there's more to, that Guy's coming through. I think when everything's said and done, we're going to get a little bit more out of Larfleeze, and there may be some identifying with him and or sympathizing with him.
Well, those moments where we're sitting, but there's other moments too where it's like he's downright scary, and I mean, like that moment where he's sitting here, that's not even your true name. I want you to shut up. You won't utter my name. You won't even whisper. I mean, look at those eyes. That's a crazy look at those eyes. You won't even whisper it, and he's ready to kill. I mean. Ready to kill. If Hal hadn't stepped in, Larfleeze would have killed that guy
with a giant meat tenderizer.
Yeah. just a crazy moment there, and that's something that I really love about the tentative relationships of these characters is the fact that you can see them turning on each other in a moment, and I like that. That's something that the hero community, including personal best friends, would notice as well. Because Barry pops into all this, and he's like, whoa, wait, we need to have a talk with this, look at this band you're hanging out with. This isn't Jon Stewart, this isn't Guy Gardner, Kyle Rayner. Whoa, who are you running with? And why?
In fact, the Guardians don't even know he's doing all this.
No, not at all. But for his best friend to call him on this, especially with what they've been through so recently in Blackest Night, that says a lot. So I really liked the way this whole issue played out.
I love the moment when Adara touches Hal and says, the truth is you do hope, you're just afraid to. Why? And just before we can find that out, which I think would have been a great piece of characterization for Hal, in flies Barry.
Well, and I think that's a problem we all face, though. Not just with hope, with any of emotions. I think we all have those emotions that we fight being, we fight going to from experience in our life, scars, whatever. We have the ones that we embrace that are healthy for us. And we have the ones that we embrace that are unhealthy for us. But we also have the ones that maybe we should embrace more that we don't because of our own scars. And that's what Hal's, obviously she's alluding to the fact, what are you afraid of? And that would be scars. There's something that keeps him from hoping because of the various things he's been through. And you're right. And I think that was meant to be more character development for Hal. Like, it's a teaser for us to say, ooh, what more are we going to learn about Hal along the way? And how long is that going to take? And that's one thing I love. We're 58 issues into this run with Hal as Green Lantern. And actually, if you include, the 6 issues of Rebirth, we're, in the 60s. But, there's still more to do with this character. And that adds, why was this character brought back? Well, this is why. Jeff Johns had a lot of stories he wanted to tell with Hal. And that is where does death become, a little bit more fluid? Where can people come back from the dead in comics? When a writer's got over 60 issues worth of storyline in mind for a character, plus, miniseries and all kinds of other, nonsense that's come out of it, that's a pretty good indicator that maybe you should bring that character back from the dead.
Mm-hmm. And over 60 successful issues.
Oh, yeah.
And, this isn't even, anywhere near being done with the story arc that he had when he first, thought of bringing back Hal Jordan. So it's, just everything's just growing and compounding and building on itself that, this is just one of those things where the Green Lanterns are I'm so excited and just genuinely thrilled when these issues come out, and just especially at like New York when they're talking about just the future of what is going to be with the Green Lanterns, and you get these little sneak peeks as to the color war still hasn't happened yet. You got the unknown space they're going to start exploring. You have just the different the Rainbow League that you're trying to figure out what's going to happen there. There's just so much that they could go with this thing that I don't see an end in sight, and I love that.
Well, it is interesting, though, how we've got a lot of people doing things outside of what the Guardians would want. Because Solek's picking up right away, and I love that bit with Solek at the end about Hal. Going on what you guys were talking about earlier with the fact that the Guardians don't know everything Hal's doing. That is something that I find it interesting that Solek, knowing him as well as he does, is recognizing R&R is a little out of character for this guy. And that actually is further reinforced by Carol. So it's going back to the whole relationship thing. So it's funny how what Solek is saying is, cycling around with what Carol was saying, and they're all noticing these trends to Hal's relationship, and it's making them draw different conclusions because of it. And I really love that when a character is so well fleshed out that they feel this human as Hal does in this book right now, that you can have the people around him reacting from different perspectives to the same sort of events in very different personal ways. And that's something that I think has also been a strength of this series. I'm loving reading Hal again. And, Hal was my Green Lantern growing up, from the Super Friends. That's the one that I'm like, ooh, okay, I remember Hal from that. And, then the Justice League and books like that. But that's really, that was my introduction to Hal, was television. And then, to start reading him in comics and see him go through alcohol and, turmoil and, hitting rock bottom and then, turning evil and finally seeing redemption for this character and having him brought back to this level again. When you never thought you'd see Hal this way, unless he was the Spectre. So, it's really interesting how this character has evolved. And it just goes, I really do believe that, death in comics, people get mad about, well, that didn't matter. Like, why is Barry Allen back? Well, I don't think we've hit, I think we've hit it as far as I'm enjoying Barry's book a great deal. But I think this Flashpoint is going to be the first story where we're really going to see, okay, I get it. This is why Barry's back. But, Hal, we're there. I mean, we've been there. And there's no greater justification for Hal being back than the storytelling we've read for this guy. I love the character. I like the costume tweak too with him. His costume. I know it's kind of crazy to talk about it now at this point, but since he came back in Rebirth, he had that little costume tweak where it was slightly adjusted, and I really liked that. I think it in some strange way, just his costume was modernized just a little bit. It really is a good look. I don't know, guys, anything else you want to say about Hal's book?
No, I think that's it.
I'm good.
Well, Myron, let's definitely plan to next week follow up and continue talking about Green Lantern Corps. And we'll go from there. Maybe host the snacks again.
Did we go off on a tangent or what there?
Wow. We went off on quite a few tangents there. And Myron, I want to remind everyone actually about the blog of OA. If you guys haven't been checking out the blog of OA, Myron runs a wonderful blog that it's on ragingbullets.com. You can click on the link to it. It's in the show notes, so it's a lot of easy ways to get to it from us, but definitely make sure you bookmark it and you visit it regularly. And actually, one of the cool things you have up there is you have a PlayStation 3 theme that people can download right from your site as well, which is very cool. Actually, that was how I contacted you for this. Was the PS3? I honestly don't think you and I have ever exchanged an email, or I might be wrong on this. I think we've always contacted each other through the PS3, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's you're kind of you're one of the, I think, exclusively one of the people that I've had on the show right from a game console. So that was a lot of fun. But thank you, Myron, again for joining us on this episode. This was a lot of fun.
I appreciate being here. I always have a great time with you, too.
Holy caffeine!
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners?
My name is Gary Arkell. I've been collecting comics since I was about 15 years old.
Gary, what comics from DC right now? Is there one that you're really enjoying, or are there a couple of them that, like...
There's a few issues that are like my first reads. I would say Brightest Day I pick up, and I read that right through when that's one of my first comics. Batman and Robin, it's a pretty good read. The Green Lantern, of course, and Birds of Prey.
I love Birds. It was funny, you just mentioned Batman and Robin. What is it about Batman and Robin that's grabbing you?
It's they're taking a new angle on it, and it's fresh. And at first I didn't like Damian when they first brought him in, but now I see he's trying to be a nice guy. He's trying to be good, so it's going to be interesting.
I like his vulnerability. Like, we got to see this really unlikable kid, but we got to see a lot of that is hiding inside him,
right.
Insecurities, and I think that vulnerability, because we saw him, like, pretty much being this outward fighting force from the beginning, and everything was really aggressive. Even his interpersonal relationships were aggressive.
He was trained to be an assassin.
Right.
Okay? And even when that whole series when the Predator took over his body.
Yes.
Deathstroke took over his body. And he didn't even know what was happening. He was like, is this my mother's brainwashing?
Right.
He didn't know what was happening. And then, like his mother was saying, you're supposed to be an assassin. Why are you teaming up with these heroes? And he's like, oh, they're giving me a chance to be somebody. They're giving me a chance to be a hero. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that at all.
And I like the fact that we're seeing a kid more now. Right. We're seeing that side of him, which was something that I think was lost at the beginning, and why he was so unlikable at the beginning is because there wasn't that rounded side of him that we could connect with. And I think now that we've seen the other puzzle piece, he's become somebody that we're like, okay, he's a victim of his environment, and he's actually growing to see that there is another possible life for him, which he's never known anything else. And Dick Grayson's given him that opportunity. I'm glad to see the two of them are going to be sticking together, because I like the relationship a lot.
I really hope that those two would be sticking together. I mean, I'd also like to see Bruce with Damian.
I do too.
Yeah, but you got to have Dick Grayson in there. You know?
I think Dick Grayson is somebody who's so well-rounded that he can be a good parent figure. There's something about him, I think he's so likable, and he's, it's that big brother aspect of him. I think we've seen it for so many years with him and Tim Drake, that to see him doing this now with Damian is something that I'm really enjoying.
Yeah. One scene where Alfred said, oh, he reminds me of young Bruce. He was saying this about Damian. And at first when I read that, I was like, no way could Bruce have acted that bratty. But I don't know, you know.
Well, what was he like after his parents' death, though? We do see a lot of those sequences where I'm sure there was a lot of anger. And what was he like because of that? What kind of shell did he build up as a kid very early on to hide his pain?
Because it's hard for somebody to say, yes, that happened, or no, that didn't happen, because they didn't really actually have stories like that back then about what happened. But maybe they should do like a story where, like a month or two after the parents died, what was he acting like and everything.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a little bit more of his development.
Because I've read different articles about children after like the father died in the World Trade Center, and the anger that they went through and everything like that. And kids go through that anger.
Absolutely.
You know.
And he was there. In the case of his death of his parents.
So
what kind of emotional scars
does that give him? Nightmares and about the pearls dropping and everything, and about Joe Chill.
Well, we know actually he not only had nightmares about it, but he still does.
Right.
There's still those moments were so vivid, even to his adult years. He's still stuck with those vivid memories of that moment and what it did to him and how it scarred him. So it would be interesting to see what his childhood was like because of it. I guarantee you he was not the man that we're used to seeing. Even with how standoffish he can be at times, I think that there was probably a lot more of that when he was younger.
Yeah.
You mentioned Green Lantern earlier. Why Green Lantern? What is it about the Green Lantern title that's standing up?
Well, there's a whole new world opening up, a whole new universe where you're seeing all the rings coming together and all the different characters, and they're just starting to giving us different sides of that. Okay.
I think there's an infinite amount of storytelling.
Oh, they could go on for forever, and I'm hoping it doesn't. Like they had the Green Lantern Corps about 20 years ago?
Yeah.
During the 80s, and I guess they didn't explore it enough, or something wasn't right back then. But now it seems to be booming, and they're doing it the right way.
I also like, though, with these new rings, one of the cool things about it is not only do we get to learn more about the nature of each of those rings and even their entities, but we've still only scratched the surface of the identities of members of those corps.
Right.
So, I mean, there's really, as you get to know, maybe if they exhaust the possibilities on one member of the Corps, these leaders that we're kind of seeing a lot of right now, there are an infinite number of potential story possibilities from other members of the Corps.
If they wanted to, they could do a mini-series for each ring.
Yeah.
And
not even a mini-series, they could do a series for each one. Not that I'm saying, there comes a point where you're like, we got to stop there. But one of the advantages of saying that there's storytelling opportunities to go that far with it is, in the Green Lantern title, that opens up those options to explore those characters through interactions with Green Lantern.
Right.
And those characters can be swapped in and out to add new depth to that story, to add new depth to the Green Lantern Corps book.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it with the third title that they have now.
Oh, yeah.
Just a whole new exploration of even a new universe, which I think is really great. Birds of Prey. Why Birds of Prey?
I like the first series. I started buying Birds of Prey when it was the mini-series.
Yeah.
And because I always used to love Black Canary and Catwoman and those characters. So the minute they started doing that as a regular series, I started buying it up. Okay, and then towards the end of the first series, it kind of died on me. So now that they're restarting it, it seems to be pretty good. The last issue, they kind of showed who the White Canary was, but I still didn't understand how she was connected to the Black Canary. That's the only thing.
Well, it was because of the fact that Black Canary defeated her brothers, was the relationship. It was a slight on her family.
Okay.
So that was the purpose of that relationship was she had to actually go back and kill all of her brothers because she shamed the family.
Oh, so that's how she got the little girl, Sin?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no. The little girl, Sin, is separate.
Okay.
Sin's separate. That was from Mother, the person who trained Black Canary in the first series.
Oh, okay.
So I was thinking that Sin was going to be connected with this, and somehow it might be Sin's mother, or somehow it was Sin.
Yeah.
Which they went completely. She went to a different story and brought in those brothers who Black Canary beat them in a way where it wasn't about her winning with physical dominance. It was about tricking them to the point where they had to come to a compromise. But she still considered it a shame on the family. She still considered it a defeat that way. Right. And because of that shame, she killed them and then made it her cause to come back and destroy Black Canary.
Oh, you see,
by destroying those around her.
I didn't remember that from the first series.
So that's how she got involved with the Penguin.
Okay.
And with what was going on with Savant and Creo. They came together and she was using the information from them, hopefully to destroy the birds, and then to leave Dinah to see them destroyed, and then eventually to come around and kill her in the end. So it was a major revenge game that she was hoping to break her down internally first, then externally.
They put out bad publicity about that.
Right. There was the murder that happened in the very beginning of this series, where Dinah was actually accused of doing it, and it actually turns out now it looks like it was Lady Shiva. I'm curious to see if it's going to turn out to actually be Lady Shiva, or if it's going to turn out this is, again, White Canary playing the strings. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how this all turns out, especially with Dinah seeming to become another White Canary. How we saw at the end with her reaction.
I saw that panel, and it kind of confused me because I was like, okay, is this White Canary, or is this Dinah becoming a White Canary?
I took it as Dinah partnering up with her. She quit the birds in order to do this, to take this path. And I think she quit the birds to keep them out of all this.
Okay.
You know, feeling like this is her responsibility to go and handle this situation, and she doesn't want them at risk because she knows that we're dealing with these martial artists.
She's gonna switch teams so fast in like issue 4
I don't think it's so
5.
fast. I think it's with what they went through in the beginning, how they were all being hunted, and with what, I mean, Lady Blackhawk was put into the hospital. You know, Barbara was almost taken out. Their identities were compromised.
Right.
Their lives were being destroyed. I think she's looking at it as, if I leave with her, I can be the one to take this burden on myself.
Okay.
And save my friends. I think it's showing how much she cares about them, that she's willing to say, I'm quitting, I'm dealing with this, without giving them enough information that they know what she's doing.
All right, so maybe,
Because I think if they knew...
maybe if she goes undercover for a few issues, and then,
Well, I
and then
think
later on,
I think Dinah really is taking it as, it's best for me to quit to deal with this, and hopefully they'll go on without me. So I don't think she's going undercover. I think she's really
she's
thinking...
really going to leave.
I think that's her intention. But it's clear the way we're left off that Huntress and Lady Blackhawk aren't exactly playing ball with that. And I like that. I actually like that aspect because
Right.
I think it's true of any strong friendship. You see your friend do this insane thing. And actually you were saying it. I can't believe she would do that so quick.
Yeah.
They're actually where you are. You're riding along right now with Huntress and Lady Blackhawk, where they're like, we didn't tell you could quit. We're coming after you. So they're not buying it the way you're not. And that's...
I mean, if I was her, I would say to White Canary, yeah, I'll join you.
Right.
And then later on, like at night, you're transmitting messages to the Oracle saying, don't
I might
worry,
be-
this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I might be wrong. I don't think she's doing that. And I think that's why Huntress and Lady Blackhawk are like, huh? You aren't doing that. They're where you're at.
Yeah.
And I think we're supposed to be in that place right now. I don't know what she's doing joined up with them now. And I think we're going to find that out next issue.
Okay.
That's where we're left cliffhanger-wise. That actually is the mystery that's intriguing me right now. What is Dinah actually doing?
I want to read that
and how are the other
again.
How are those other two going to react?
Yeah.
But they went there because Lady Blackhawk was in the hospital bed saying, I don't remember giving her permission to leave, and that's what led them to go after her. So they're not buying into her on that. We were just talking about Brightest Day. Do you think Firestorm is this Deathstorm character? Do you think that is a new version, or it's the same one still around from Blackest Night?
Well, they only showed like the one from Darkest Night for like a couple panels. So this seems like they were either exploring that character in depth now, or it's like almost like a new character.
Well, that was the one, when we did see him in Blackest Night, he was the one that killed the girlfriend of Firestorm.
Okay.
So I'm very curious to see what this creature is. Do you have a favorite beat that you're enjoying in Brightest Day, or is it the whole...
I like the scenes with Dead Man and Hawk and Dove. That was very good. They haven't. I don't know if they finished up the Hawkman whole thing.
I don't think any of the stories are done yet. I think what they're doing is they're switching focuses from time to time to give us...
Like they're going to spend more time with certain heroes for a couple of issues, and then they'll come back to the other ones.
I like that change of, because I think what we're getting is meaty elements. Then they give us little teasers of what's coming next.
Right.
And I think because they're giving meaty pieces, my attach rate to each of the stories is stronger.
Because the problem with the first couple of issues were you're only getting 2 pages of each story, and I was like, that's not enough. That's not enough.
What would you like to see happen with these characters? Is there any of them you'd like to see to a series? Would you like to see them together? What would you like to see happen with them after this is over? Assuming they all survive.
Well, it would be good if there was whoever becomes the White Light Lantern. It would be good for that character to have a series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be, you're right,
Okay.
just to see where that goes.
The only problem is it almost seems like that character would become too powerful. And if that character is too powerful, whoever's writing it, I think is going to have a hard time doing all the stories. You know, because I've read articles about different writers who try to use a character that's too powerful, and they're saying, how do I have a villain for this character? What challenges are for a hero that is very powerful. You know, it's so like if you have a character like Spectre, okay, he can do anything.
Spectre's had some very success, like the Ostrander Mandrake run of Spectre was very successful. I think there's ways to do it. I think if they're going to do a series with the White Lantern, and it is this very powerful character, I think you have to have a writer who's really got a very cool concept and spin on how to explore what it's like to be dropped into that kind of role and what it does to you. How do you stay connected? I think those are some interesting story elements you can go with. And what does the white light mean as far as do you combat crime, or do you have another edict, or what is
hard to say. I mean, I don't know whether it means that you go and you give birth to areas of, like, if you go to a desert and you plant a forest, or you go to impoverished nations and you give them fields of grain or something like that.
Or do you have to temper that and realize that if you do all of these things, what would happen to the world if there wasn't those things in them?
Right.
And what would that do for the human condition as far as... I think humanity needs to understand sometimes hardships to fight past them to become better. So I don't know, you'd have to pick and choose what are the right times to step in and do something. If there's mass starvation, do you prevent that?
Some type of spirit or entity that's guiding this character, then there's going to be discussion between whoever the White Lantern is and the entity who's guiding him.
Yeah. I guess to me, what my thinking is, do you fix it yourself, or do you find ways to empower others to do it? I don't know. I'm enjoying the grounded storyline in Superman right now, and my favorite beats are the ones where he is inspiring people to do things themselves, inspiring them to change themselves. Because I think that's something that a hero has an opportunity to do. It's not so much the hero doing everything, it's how do you make people better?
Right.
And I think that's something we as readers get, hopefully, from comics.
Like what's going on in Titans, where Deathstroke is gathering all these people, and he's telling them, you're going to become heroes now, I'm going to have you do different things. Okay? But at the same time, that young guy...
Osiris?
Yeah, he doesn't know. He wants to revive ISIS.
Right.
Okay? And he doesn't totally trust Deathstroke. So he's going along with it for a while, and at the same time, every once in a while, he hears the White Lantern telling him to do things. So the White Lantern's telling Osiris to do things every once in a while. And like just the last issue, he saw that when he killed somebody, the statue of Isis sort of like cracked. And he says, oh, is this what's going to revive my mother? And he doesn't know whether that's where you're going to if he's going to have to kill 10, 12 people to revive his mother.
Or his sister. And that's going to be the interesting part, because one of the things with Titans right now, they wind up on both sides of the fence. Sometimes they're doing things that could be considered quote-unquote good, but other times they're committing assassinations. Like they start out in the special by killing off the Atom, the new Atom. So it's interesting to see what part of his soul does he have to give up to revive his sister, and what would his sister be like afterwards because of that, and how will she view him because of that?
And I don't really understand the whole thing. I don't understand the concept of that. Why would a White Lantern tell him to kill people?
Well, the White Lantern didn't tell him to kill people. The White Lantern told him that his goal is to revive his sister.
Right.
So I don't know that what Osiris is doing is that what's going to do it? Is breaking apart her statue the goal, or is what he's doing causing a problem for ISIS's return? See, I guess my question is he going to succeed or is he going to fail because of his actions? Because I'm seeing the other possibility that maybe what he's doing and her statue cracking is hurting her, not helping her. I might be wrong. I'm seeing another element of that, like, because I'm with you. I can't imagine that all of this killing, considering ISIS's MO, is a good thing.
Right.
And if it is what'll bring her back, what is she going to be like because of that?
We saw in the last appearance of her in the Justice Society how she had turned back. So when Black Adam revived her from the dead, she was almost like him.
Right. Because she needs to be brought. The White Lantern. See, I think the White Lantern, the end game, isn't for him to kill to bring her back. I don't think that matters. It's Isis needs to be back for a reason.
I'd rather
what
have
is that reason?
Back for a good cause.
Yes,
to be a good character. To be the hero that she was originally.
Some of the reasons people are coming back, I don't quite understand. Like some of the edicts from the White Lantern I don't understand. Like throwing the boomerang at Dove. What is the purpose of that? What and Hawk having to stop it? Why does that exchange need to happen? What is that going to do for each? And I think until we actually see it play out, and I don't think it's just them playing out that we need to see, it's what comes after that. Because I think that's setting them in places where they're each going to be in spots that are going to somehow lead to, I guess, finding the...
It seems like they're going to be building towards a new event or crossover where Max Lord is going to be on one side that some people are going to be thinking are evil, but at other times he may think that he's right, okay? Because it seems like he wants to gather a team of people who are against the meta youth, but are for what his causes are. And then they're going to have a group of meta-humans who are saying Max Lord is evil. There's going to be a war between those two teams.
I am very confused with Max Lord in the sense that I agree. I see possibilities for what you're saying. I also wonder on the other end, though, if we aren't seeing Max Lord change somewhat because of what he's seeing in front of him. Because he keeps apologizing. You know, like when he's dealing with Fire, when he's dealing with Booster. Yeah. He says, I'm sorry for the fact that I have to take it to the next level. I'm sorry for what I have to do next. So why does he... And I feel that's genuine. So why is he so tormented? I don't know. And I'm not disputing anything you just said. It's more of a... I think with Max, there's a few different possibilities on what could actually be happening there. And I'm curious to see what that end game is.
He seems like he's for humans and for Earthlings.
Right.
But he's just against the meta-human population. So maybe he feels for anybody who has a costume on and doesn't have superpowers. Maybe they have gadgets or they're evil because they have gadgets.
But he still seems to feel for Fire and Ice to a certain extent. So I don't know what the...
Yeah, maybe because Fire and Ice were on his team when he had just JLI.
Right.
You know? But,
I think his story is complex, and that's what I'm liking about it is the more I see of him, the less cut and dry I feel his direction is, and I think that's intriguing. I want to know what he really is feeling.
It would be good for them to have almost two minis, where one is on Max Lord's side, and making you see this whole story from Max Lord's angle.
I think we're going to see it in this generation Lost, though. I think we're going to see... I might be wrong, but we've still got a lot of story to go, and I do think we're going to see Max's end game.
Did you see that? Did you read that part where they had Dick Grayson as Batman?
Yes.
And he says,
issue 10 of Justice League Generation
Lost. He starts going into I see Max Lord here and Max Lord here. He says, Alfred, what do you see? Alfred doesn't see anything.
Yeah. But that actually intrigues Dick even more because what they're seeing on the screen doesn't make sense to him. Right. And I love that when Power Girl showed up, it led to that as well. Yeah. I'm very curious to see, Max has now gone under the radar, but what is he really trying to do?
I understand them bringing in Power Girl into this because she was part of the JOA.
Right.
But the only thing that's disappointing me about Power Girl is I liked her original series.
Oh, yes.
With the humor and Amanda Conner drawing it and everything. That was, those first 10 or 12 issues were excellent. Now, it's almost like they're making her book too serious. They're making her book part of continuality. And I'm kind of disappointed about that.
I'm starting to get into her. I like the new direction. I loved the last 12 issues, and I think that what it was is the creative team was contracted for the first 12 issues, and so they switched to a new creative team. And I think what they're doing is because of her relationship with Max Lord and all that. Because you would see a reaction from her to it as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if any of her turmoil is related to Max and his dealings. Because her company is being pulled out from underneath her. I want to see who's doing that and why.
Oh, I really think that it's Max Ward took over her secretary or whoever that girl was, her assistant.
Right.
And took all the money. Because
I wonder if that's eventually going to... We've seen her have an awareness when she met with Dick Grayson in this. I'm wondering if the closer she gets to the truth about what's going on with her, if that's going to increase her realization about Max and what is that going to mean.
But I'm still kind of disappointed in the way that they changed it to be part of continuality.
Instead of being its own separate entity.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like you said, the contract was up and they had to change it. But,
and we saw Grand Palmiotti then moved on to Freedom Fighters now, which they're writing. So I think what happened was Amanda Conner, I think, was on for 12 issues and then didn't want to... I don't know what the story is as far as whether or not they didn't want it. Because I know the series was successful with it. So I don't know if...
Well, the funny thing is I actually go to a local comic store in New Jersey, and the owner of that store, he used to be married to Amanda Conner.
Okay.
And he told me, I guess he calls her up every once in a while and they chat, and he says that she's kind of a slow artist. It takes a long time to do an issue, and I think that she told him that she wouldn't be able to keep up with this for too long.
Okay.
So I think she had to sit there and do all 12 issues for a while and then take a rest. Okay. So she was doing the Black Cat covers for Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay. And they've been and then they reshoot the Pro, which is her work. So they reissued that, and that was her work from originally. So I think she's trying to work on her new project, whatever that may be now.
Right. So, and I think that was when when that happened, there was a change then of just a creative team in general, new writer and things like that. So where do we take this character now? What direction are we going in after this? The first 12 issues, I agree with your love for them. They were incredible. I am liking the new direction. I think if they didn't have the closure that they did at the end of those issues 12, I'm a big fan of when a creative team leaves. Jim and I were talking about this yesterday. I'm a fan of when the creative team leaves and they give you closure off of what their run was when they start a new run. And I really do feel that they tied up everything from that first 12 issues. Probably why we liked it so much, because it felt very satisfying. I'm curious to see where this Power Girl series is going to go after this Generation Lost is done. What is she going to be like? Are they going to pull from elements from the first 12 issues? I don't know. I'm curious to see. Where Tara, for example, is somebody that I would like to see continue on. I like Tara a lot.
I like Tara a lot. She had her own miniseries, which was very good.
Yes.
And I'd like to see more of those two.
The friendship.
The friendship of them, and how Tara is a new character. Everything in the surface world is new to her. And Power Girl was telling her, you can do this, but you can't do other things, So that was all good, good. And then the funny villains that they would bring in, giant robots and different things like that, That's why I like those stories, because there was action, at the same time there was humor.
Right. I want to thank you for listening to the show, and I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I enjoyed that.
And enjoy the DC Universe panel.
I will. Okay.
We're here with Interverse Comics, and guys, could you please introduce yourself for our audience?
I'm Richard Arrington. I'm one of the creators from Interverse Comics.
And I'm Vasilio Stabakis, also another creator of Interverse Comics. We're both the owners.
Okay, tell us a little bit about Interverse Comics and the products that people can get from Interverse Comics.
Interverse Comics is a mixture of traditional web comics and web comics. We have 7 ongoing series at the moment, where we have a new page update on our website every day. And we also have the option for people who like our series to later come back to us and purchase our comics to get ahead of the story of what's online, and color versus the black and white that we have on our site.
Yeah, and we only started a couple months ago, and we're doing really well, and we're here at New York Comic Con now, so that's a really good thing for us.
Yeah, we have 6 exclusives here at the convention, all special black and white editions that we're never going to do again. We cover a variety of different genres: horror, science fiction, urban fantasy, historical fiction, some traditional superhero, comedy superhero ones.
If a lot of people from here here that like DC Comics, check out our comic Legacy. We have a really talented artist, Kulik. He's just amazing. He does a great job. He even colored it by hand for this version at the con, and he did we have a special edition, just pencil work. So if there's artists out there that want to get tips and pointers to look at his work, because it's amazing.
That's fantastic. What I really liked as you were talking through the different genres you cover is there really something for everybody. Because for myself, one thing I love about the comic medium is the diversity of storytelling you can get from comics. And I have very wide tastes in comics as well as television and film and what I like. So I love when I see publishers taking advantage of the rich storytelling that you can get in comics and that you can tell you can tell any kind of story in this medium.
Oh yes, serial storytelling is paramount to us, and we love this scattergun approach because even if you really hate one of our series, we expect you to hate some of our series. But on the other hand, you're going to love some of our series as well because we have all different sorts.
So you're going to keep coming back? Especially to the website too, and that's...
You might not want to come back Fridays, but you'll come back on Mondays to our site.
Exactly.
What is the website again? That way our listeners can go and check it out.
Our site is interversecomics.com.
Okay, and there'll be links in our show notes and on our website right directly to the website, so you don't have to write it down. Just go and click on it right from our site. So that's great.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, thank you guys for stopping by.
Thank you.
Great talking with you.
Actually, why don't you say your name, because I will butcher your last name.
Derek Bacharach. Think of it as Burt Bacharach.
Outstanding.
The songwriter.
And you're with the Simply Superheroes.
Yes, I'm the owner of simplysuperheroes.com.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about it first?
Sure. The website is sort of geared towards kids and their parents, too, about superheroes. We think of it as superheroes being a bridge to sort of bond kids with the parents, for parents who like superheroes as kids. It's a way of sharing with the kids what the parents used to watch when they were kids on TV. One of the things we do, we have some interactive stuff. We've embedded a lot of videos of superheroes, previous TV shows, for example. Parents can be going through there and say, oh, look at this. This is what I used to watch as a kid. This is the episode. And we have a bunch of episodes like the 1967 Spider-Man cartoon series. It goes back to the 1940s. We have serials for Batman, up to like trailers for movies coming out in the near future for superheroes. So we cover a wide range, and if you go to our website, on the homepage, there's a link for a library. That's right up there. You can't miss it near the top. And also we have fun stuff too, which is they can print out connect the dot pages, coloring book pages. There are fun videos there too, and also video games as well.
That's outstanding.
Thanks.
All serious, man. One of the things that I love about the superhero medium and the genre, I do get into a little bit of the darker, more adult stories.
Yeah.
But there's just been some great fun stuff.
Yeah.
Johnny DC line just did a really strong relaunch, and I started picking up these titles, and I never would have bought those before. I'm like, wow, this is some fun stuff. This is some cool stuff. Now, I have no kids. I'm not associated with any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it just, you see the fun part of what comics were.
It brings, I love the fun part of it. I mean, beyond DC, Superhero Squad brings a lot of kids into it. Younger kids, they think it's cool, Batman, but it's kind of like dark and everything. And Spider-Man, I mean, as far as kids go, what we see is what sells, for example, something that's like a 3T, a 3-year-old, they're going for Spider-Man. Kids who are 5-year-olds, they're going for Batman. It is a progression there, we've noticed, in sales. So you're not going to see too many toddlers buying Punisher T-shirts, and there aren't that many available, too, because they know that.
Well, you will see some kids, but you're like, oh.
Yeah.
A little bit worried of those kids.
Right. There could be Wolverine. There could be Hulk. We're thinking, with Hulk, they have anger management issues. You wonder about that sometimes. Who knows?
Actually, my one nephew, he's got his issues sometimes. So.
Yeah. But, it's fun. It's a fun outlet for them. It's a great escape. There's a lot of psychological needs for kids liking superheroes and a lot of other things out there. I mean, there's so much to choose from out there in terms of what to watch. And it's great that superheroes still plug away. They're still very successful. And of course, you can thank Hollywood for that.
And you still get some of the older styles because you were talking about some of the the earlier stuff that you have on there. They had like some really nice messages, and you always had the hero wins out in the end, and we won because of teamwork.
Yeah. It's fun to see that stuff. I mean, the products we sell on our website, some of the books that we choose for kids, the easy-to-read books. What's really great is that the publishers know that, and that's why Justice League is so successful, for example, working them all as a team to get the bad guy.
Exactly. That's a cool.
Those are one of the best-selling books I have. Is those Justice League books I have.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
That's good to hear, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, hey, thank you for being on the show again.
Oh, sure.
This is simplysuperheroes.com. There will be links on the show notes as well as on our website.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We are back, and I am being joined by
Jamie Dunst, JD74 on the boards.
Cool. Great to see you. Great to hear.
Thanks.
Wonderful New York Comic Con, having a ball here.
It's looking great. I mean, I've been here for almost every year except for one, and it just seems to get bigger and better every year, and I'm just enjoying it. Sundays seem to be the day to be here, kind of, because you can walk around, and I wasn't here Saturday, but I heard a lot of it was sold out, and it was pretty hectic. But but today's been great.
A lot of action going on here, a lot of volume. It was a really crazy, wonderfully crazy, but crazy moments.
Yeah, that's the thing about New York. I mean, it's the energy and it's excitement, and I can see why it's the biggest one in the East Coast and probably rivaling San Diego at some point. I mean, it's just you can feel everyone's excitement. I was waiting in line, and just people were just excited just to be online and just get ready for the con and meet all the all the artists and writers and just hang out with other geeks.
And speaking of exciting, I see you're in your Green Lantern apparel. Dude, some really cool stuff is coming out in the Green universe. I am so jazzed about the future of the cores and just everything that's happening green. It's good to be green.
It is good to be green. I mean, I've been a fan of Green Lantern since I was 5, and I love the Green Lantern franchise. And the fact that it's been getting such a boost over the years has been, for me, really hard. I love it. I love that everyone is now seeing what I've seen since I was 5. And 3 series. I never would have thought at any time you'd have 3 series at once for Green Lantern. I mean, you've had Green Lantern Quarterly along with Green Lantern, but now you got 3 books, and it's been a chock full of Green Lantern stuff.
3 successful books.
That's
the other thing. It's like when they first said they're going to bring in more series, you're wondering, okay, can it keep it going? And it is. And I tell you, I've said this multiple times in multiple recordings we've done here. The Green Lantern teams, the green teams, have been impressing me. They know what they're doing. They have a long-term plan, and it's not like it's ending now that we're coming to near the end of Brightest Day. There's more stuff coming. They're sitting there, they're thinking, okay, they're not resting on their laurels. They're saying, okay, we got to have a long-term plan. We got to know exactly where we're going, what we're doing with this, and you can see it in the writing and the layouts and just everything coming down the pipeline. I am excited and pumped for the future of the Green Lantern Corps.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been reading about the Lantern War that's going to be coming up. I heard something about at first there's going to be a Green Lantern War, which I can't even imagine what's going to mean. I heard upcoming there's going to be Kyle and Hal are going to get into a fight, and Guy and Hal are going to get into a fight because Guy and Hal Hal and Guy fighting it's like should happen at least once a year. It should be a once-a-year event where Hal and Guy fight.
Well, because that was one of the things with the Green Lantern panel yesterday. Jeff Johns was just, he was giving teasers, but he was also giving information and just the stuff going on. Someone asked about the color war. Has it happened? He's like, well, first we got to have the war with the Green Lanterns.
That's what I heard. And, it's interesting because I honestly thought, between, the Sinestro Corps War and Blackest Night, when you were getting all of these, colors coming up, and they were fighting each other. You had Sinestro invade the Star Sapphire world, and you had the Orange Lanterns, fighting the Blue Lanterns. I actually thought that was a color war, but it seems like we're going to get something even more intense. And it's amazing how thought out this is and how well planned this is. And the shift in writing teams for Green Lantern Corps to Green Lantern, to Green Emerald Warriors, and I'm just looking forward to all of the stuff that's coming out. I'm looking forward to the Weaponer coming, in Green Lantern.
Yes.
That looks really interesting, and it's just amazing how well planned they seem to be on this.
Yeah, and it was funny because they're throwing out some of this stuff, and they said how the Weaponer of Cord was, he figured he's going to be a rock star, because he made the first Sinestro ring, and it completely ended up screwing over his whole world, so he wants his vengeance. You got dealing with Kyle and Sinestro are going to have a slobber knocker. He's talking about this is going to be a slugfest to end all slugfest. And you think about it, that's Kyle's kind of dating his daughter. There's going to be some of those personal issues.
Yeah.
But there's also going to be core issues. And Another one he threw out there, and it was a quick comment that I think people may have missed. He said, what's going to happen when Barry Allen realizes and learns that his friend is dealing with Sinestro? Hal and Sinestro have had this pact going, and they're making deals, and they're working together. How's Barry going to deal with the fact that his longtime friend is now being friends and allies with his arch enemy? Is he going to be accepting? Is he going to say, hey, you can't do that. He's a bad guy. You can't team up with the villains.
That's very interesting because, you got Barry Allen is very black and white. It's you are, you follow the law or you don't follow the law, and you don't follow the law, I'm going to get you. And that's interesting.
Oh, yeah, big time. And it was also, of course, with the whole thing going on with the Emerald Warriors, with their secret pact, how's Hal going to deal with that when he finds out the pact? And that's where we're going to get our Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan fight. Yeah, well, that's what I'm looking for.
Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan fighting is like, it sells. I mean, I don't know if you ever read the Volume 3 of Green Lantern, but Green Lantern number 25, you had Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. It was a whole issue of them fighting. And it was glorious.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it was really, really cool. And I like those two guys when they're fighting each other because you get two different personalities. The thing of it is that they have a lot more in common than they probably each wanted to admit to each other. And that's what makes them when they fight, so amazing. But, yeah, Green Lantern, I just can't believe how much stuff they got coming together, and it's just amazing. I'm so looking for it. I've never been more jazzed for Green Lantern and just comics in general since now, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I could say, it takes me back to my childhood, even though I didn't read this back as a child, but right. I still get that same kind of energy. I still get that great, just that, kind of moments.
It's just being at the con. Like, when I'm at the con and I'm looking at all the stuff here, I'm wearing my little Green Lantern ring, and I'm just seeing the creators and talking to all the cool people that, people like me who love comics. You sort of just, you kind of revert to almost a kid-like state in a sense of it, because it's just the awe of being here and being with people who are like-minded, and it's magical. It's a lot of fun, and it's why people come back every year. It's why this thing keeps growing, and I'm just looking forward to everything that DC's got coming on. It's going to be great, and I'm loving the fact that the price is going down a little bit. Back,
man, they've been really talking about that, and I tell you.
Have they been talking about it here?
Oh, big time. And in all the panels, they always bring it up, and they're talking about it. We're loving it, and it's a cool moment. Dan DiDio, he's a funny guy. He cracks jokes. Ian Sadler, he's a funny guy. They're up there having fun with you, but they got serious whenever they talked about the $2.99 point. Because, here's the deal with them. They recognized that it was hurting the fans. They recognized that it was hurting us readers, and they initially said, hey, we're going to try to give you more bang for your buck. Give you a little bit more pages, put in the extra features, but even that wasn't helping out. So we're dropping back down to $2.99. And it's $2.99 and holding. That's the thing I like. They recognize that this was a mistake. Well, not even a mistake. They recognize that, we would be better served by having $2.99 price than the $3.99. And they're like, we see this and we're holding. And I'm loving the fact that they're saying and holding.
That's great. It's, to me, I've listened to all the times DC does the podcasts, and they podcast a lot of the panels from San Diego. They probably maybe do it here. I'm hoping they do the New York ones because I only came today. And the thing I love about DC is when they get serious and they talk about the fans and what they listen to the fans. They really, really listen to the fans. And sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but they really are. And when they said they were I read that they were going to bring it down to $2.99, I was like, you guys rock. You guys know what's up. You know what's going on, and that's why you got me as a customer. That's why you got me as a fan, because you know what the fans want, and you give what the fans want, and it's fantastic.
Oh, amen on that. And I really like when they do address some of the more serious issues, and they do look at that kind of stuff that we the fans want. It's not just whatever we want to do. They pay attention. They listen. There's been titles I know that have gotten saved because people spoke up about it. Every panel I've gone to, Ralph and Sue Dibny always come up. And they keep saying Dead is dead in the DCU, but if we keep talking about it, I think we may get him back.
Well,
I think we may get something.
In one of the issues of Brightest Day, they made the thing that dead is not, dead may not always be dead. So, I think I heard somewhere that they said that when a character dies, it's because they just don't have plans for that character yet. They don't know what to do with that character, so they'll take him off the board. And when someone figures out what they're going to do with that character, they bring him back. And people may say, "Oh, dead is dead," and we like what characters, if they die, they die. That's not true.
No.
I know for a fact that I would be very happy to see Sue and Ralph back. I was very happy when they brought Hal back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my man. And it's all about finding the right story for that character. And when they do that, and they bring a character back, you do it in a way that is interesting. I don't care what people say. They're going to like the story. They're going to want to follow that story. And that's the bottom line. That's what's interesting.
Oh, yeah. And it was funny because people were asking them about how did they pick who was going to come back, with Brightest Day.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
And, and John's, and they said they laid it out saying, you know what? We had a list of people. We were talking about it. This thing went on over and over for over a year. This discussion, who is it going to be? And they didn't want to just bring somebody back. It had to have a point, had to have a story. And the thing I love that he said is Martian Manhunter was the first one on the list, and he was always on the list. People came and went constantly. He was one name no one wanted to take off the list. When he died, they were already thinking about bringing him back. It was all going to be part of the giant story. So that's one of the things. He's back for a reason, and we're going to get some long-term Martian Manhunter. So it's going to be some really, really cool stuff going on. So definitely looking forward to seeing my green guy, see what he goes through.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like the fact that when you bring a character back, you have a plan. And one of the ones I'm looking forward to, I know in the Brightest Day, one of my favorite storylines right now has been the Firestorm.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see where that goes, because I love the idea of Jason and Ronnie sharing the Firestorm Matrix and being Firestorm together, and that to me seems like such an odd couple. There's the possibilities for an ongoing series with those two guys seem hysterical. It could be really, really good.
Yeah, and it's funny because I have very limited exposure on Firestorm. Jason's the only Firestorm I've ever really read. I didn't really know who Ronnie was. So as the series is going on, I'm learning who Ronnie is. And that's just high praise to the writing currently, that I don't feel lost. I don't feel like I'm misguided or unknown what's going on with the guy, because I understand why he feels this way, because they're explaining it to me, but they're not slowing down the process to explain it. It's great interfacing of his past, his present, his future going, and just this evolution of who Firestorm is has me excited about this character, has me excited about his future.
Absolutely. I know. I didn't read the Ronnie Raymond series, but I read him in the JLA, every now and then. So I knew enough about him, but you're right. I'm getting enough of a backstory of who Ronnie is, what he's about, without slowing things down, without too much exposition. And I think that's the best thing about the Brightest Day, is that you're getting a little bit of story here, a little bit of story there, but you're getting enough from all the different stories over a period of time that it keeps you excited. I know there's certain stories that people want to see more than others, but the Aquaman story, I can't get enough of that. And I know, I think it was issue 10 where you got it was the stare off between Aquaman and Black Manta, and it ended there. I'm like, no, give me more. And that was phenomenal, and I just can't wait to see what they do with these characters.
Yeah, Sean and I talked about issue 11.
Oh yeah,
and we actually recorded it here at the show. So
cool.
Oh, it's good. I know. You know what? It's funny. I still want to talk more about it, but I'm like, well, we really beat that one to death.
It was because it was such a good story. You got so much stuff on the Firestorm and then story, and you got the Aquaman story, and the fight was fantastic.
Amen.
I mean, throwing him into a truck.
Yeah.
I mean, really, and he was still going. He still got up. I'm just like, what does this guy? I mean, that's the thing about Jeff, and that's why I love Jeff as a writer, is that it looks like he could take just about any character and make him A-list. I mean, and it's such a rare thing, because you can tell that he loves these characters. He puts so much care in these characters. But not only does he take the characters that have been around and make them better, but he creates so many new characters. I mean, Larfleeze. I mean, I am so looking forward to the Christmas special.
They talked about, well, he didn't give out any like spoilers on it. Just talked about it, and it was kind of neat. There was a Larfleeze in costume at the panel, and it was hysterical. Great costume. I got a couple pictures. I know Sean's going to upload, and I'm giving the images to Sean so they get uploaded because I have a habit of not uploading stuff. I know that, but we really want to get these things up. And it was just, I tell you, Larfleeze is such a fun character. Jeff Johns has fun with the guy, and there's going to be definitely the Christmas special. People were throwing out other holidays. They wanted to see him deal with the Easter Bunny and all that stuff.
Oh, my God.
And it's funny because one of the two biggest questions that are always asked, throughout every panel has been, Larfleeze's oath and the Dexstar crypto fight.
See, you know what? And that's what I've been waiting to hear about the Orange Lantern oath, because I've been I mean, it's been hinted at so much, and you're like, oh yeah, you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. You know what? Whatever it is, I know I'm gonna love it. Even if it really is my.
Yeah.
Although my is pretty. I like that. But the Dexstar crypto fight.
Yeah.
That to me is that's gonna be like the fight of the century for me. I mean, I remember that it was the backup. It was a backup issue where they did the Dexstar origin. I loved it.
We're getting more of that, by the way. The Dexstar story is not over. Because they asked him about it, and he's like, no, we're going to get the second part of that story, because you honestly think Dexstar's just going to sit back and let the people who killed his master? No, he's going on the warpath.
Because that's going to be his secret mission. My feeling was that his secret mission to kill these guys for killing his owner was going to lead into the crypto, Dexstar fight.
Yeah.
And I just find it interesting that his original name is Dexter.
Yeah.
And you got Dexter on TV, who was a serial killer. I'm sure that would, just Dexter, but it's kind of funny. And these characters are just outstanding. And the character I'm looking forward to seeing more of is actually Saint Walker.
Yeah, I tell you, people asked about him. They were asked about him and the Blue Lanterns and all that stuff, and we're going to get more stories with the Blue Lanterns.
I love Saint Walker.
Yeah.
I remember I guess it was Green Lantern, where there was a scene with him in the Question.
Yeah.
I thought that was beautifully written. It was so beautifully written, and I just couldn't, this character, I would read him in a miniseries or an ongoing. If they did a series just on the color cores, and had a spotlight story on them, I would be down with that. I mean, that's how great these characters are.
He's building up some following on him, and they've announced that there's going to be some, I don't think it's been officially announced, but they've talked about it at the panels, that we're going to get more of the color stories. We're going to get more of these, even possible limited series on any of the different colors. They never said specifically we're going to get this on this or that, but we're definitely going to get more stuff on it. They're recognizing how much we're enjoying this. They're recognizing how much we want, and they're going to start, giving it to us.
Cool.
And it's one of those things where, because someone asked him about the growth of the colors, growth of the color spectrums, the emotional spectrum. He's like, it was just an organic growth. It just started building, and as it's going, pieces are coming into place. This fits in here. This fits there. This is the kind of deals going there. And it's, and you can tell in the reading that this isn't a, let's do this. No, it's a flow through. It's a growth. It's a birth of something that is probably going beyond what maybe they originally even thought of that it's going to be. And I'm loving seeing that and really excited for what's coming.
That's great. I mean, I know for a fact that there's so many I've got so many questions about the different colors. I so want to know more about the Indigo Tribe.
Yeah.
There's not been nearly enough about the Indigo, about the language and what Abin Sur has to deal with them. And then just the Blue Lanterns itself. I'm just so jazzed for all of that stuff.
Oh, definitely. And, Indigo Tribe's another one that kept coming up, and they did say that we're going to get some more information on the Indigo Tribe. We're going to get more information on what they're doing to Black Hand.
Yeah, I actually saw a cover not that long ago, I think, with the Indigo Tribe and Black Hand, and it looks like it got lobotomized.
Well, here's the deal, and this is the one thing they did solidly say, that Black Hand is the gateway for Necron. As long as he stays alive, Necron can't come back through. If dies, then all bets are off. The Indigo Tribe knows this. They know they have to keep him alive, but guess what? There's a lot you can survive. And so it's not. They're not treating him with kid gloves, but they're not killing him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're actually doing to him, because there's got to be more than just, you mentioned lobotomized. I'm wondering if they're doing mind games and if he's reliving nightmares, or who knows what they're doing to him.
Maybe not even nightmares, but maybe something that he enjoys, so he's not trying to escape. Maybe he's trying to be locked in his own paradise. Maybe he's locked in a room full of dead people.
It could be. Who knows what they're doing with him?
What I'm really curious about, I don't know if anyone asked this, but I'm really curious about what happens when different color powers get together. Because when we saw what happens when the blue and green get together, we saw what happens when the blue and yellow get together.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what happens if red and indigo get together, or red and violet get together. Is there a certain reaction that happens, when certain colors get together?
Yeah, I don't know about that one. That would be interesting to see, because you think about it, the blue and the green get together because Hope and Will working together is unstoppable.
Right, and because you saw that the blue only really works when there's a green nearby, and when the blue's nearby, the green get amped up to 200%.
Yeah. Well, it's because they have the hope, and because that's the weakness of Will is that if you don't have faith in your
right.
will, if you don't have faith in what you can do, well, that hope gives you that faith, so it gives you that boost up. I really dig seeing just the emotional spectrums, and I'm curious to see what will happen if you mix color combos.
I'm curious too. I'm with Gardner right now, he's still it seems like he's still infected with a little bit of redness, and. It'd be interesting. We saw him with a red and green ring during the Blackest Night. So I'm just wondering, if people will start getting more than one color, and what would happen if mix the orange and the yellow, or the yellow and the blue. It seems like there's so the possibilities are limitless when you look at all that stuff.
They showed a couple cool cover images. One was a guy spitting blood and going almost full on red with the red eyes.
I saw that.
And they had another one where it was guy fighting the Blue Lantern, the elephant. The elephant-looking Blue Lantern.
Oh,
it was him
Worf.
fighting him. Yeah. I couldn't think of his name. Thank you. It showed him fighting him, which I thought was a really neat cover. Just what's going on there. Again, that's an Emerald Warriors probably.
He showed up in the end of issue 2. So that's kind of cool. Have you been watching Smallville?
Oh, I've been watching Smallville. I've been loving Smallville. I've been going nuts over Smallville. Oh my God!
The end of the second episode, where he has the more Smallvilleized costume, you have that. I like that red jacket.
Yeah, I do too.
Neat.
That looks neat.
And I think it's neat that the costume, the real costume, is at the fortress. That he has to earn that costume.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw. Did you see Friday's episode?
No, I didn't, because we were traveling. So
it's really cool. Supergirl's in it.
Oh, nice.
And there's some really cool dark side stuff.
Oh, nice. Cool.
And there's the character, one of the villain in the episode. If you know your Jack Kirby and Fourth World stuff, you'll really get a kick out of it. And if you don't know it, just Google the name of the character who's the main bad guy in the episode.
Yeah.
You'll be glad you did, because that's what I did. And it really pays off if you know, for a fan who knows Jack Kirby stuff.
Well, I saw they showed previews and stuff. It was Godfrey, right?
Yes.
Because Cat Grant talked about Godfrey and all that stuff. So
Godfrey is a character. He's a character created by Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And he was in the whole cult of dark side thing. So back in in the 70s. So it's really, I love how they're bringing in these little things here and there. And Brainiac 5. Next week.
Oh, nice.
Because next week is the They go back to Smallville for the high school reunion.
Oh, okay.
So it's a lot of it looks like you're gonna see a lot. It's gonna be almost like a clip episode because you're gonna see a lot of old clips. Like Clark's gonna remember a whole bunch of stuff from like earlier seasons. So you're probably gonna see old clips of like Lana and like stuff like that. So that should be interesting.
That should be cool.
And I read in the rumorville that we're gonna get Deathstroke.
Really?
Deathstroke the Terminator, and I think what I heard was Michael Hogan, who played the guy from Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Colonel Ty.
Yeah.
He'll be Slade Wilson.
Nice.
So at
That should be a good
least we know
count. That should be a
at least we know
nice-
he
that
can
should
rock
make
he can rock the eye patch.
Yeah. Well, that should be a good casting there.
So yeah, it's interesting. All the different things they're bringing to Smallville this season. It's going to be great.
Oh man, I am thrilled. I am excited. I'm just eagerly anticipating what we get down the pipeline.
Oh yeah,
so.
it's this season so far. I mean, we're only like 2 or 3 episodes in, and I'm hooked. I mean, it's so great. I'm loving what they're doing, and so there's a big ending for this past episode involving Green Arrow.
Okay.
Great stuff.
Cool.
So,
well, hey, thanks for joining us, man. It's cool, man.
Great seeing you, and love the show. I especially love the Gail Simone stuff. Oh my God, 4 hours, dude. 4 hours.
Yeah, we got a little bit of love fest going there.
Did you like have to take breaks? I mean, I can't imagine what that actually wound up. Like how long did you actually record that for?
A little bit longer than what the actual airing time is. And it was funny. We did take one break in the middle. After we're like, okay, hold on a second, gotta get something to drink, gotta take care of some stuff. But yeah, it was a massive love fest.
Oh my God, it was like an audiobook. It was huge. But it was fun. I'm glad that you guys did that, and because her stuff is amazing. She's a great writer, and if you're not reading Gail Simone, you gotta ask yourself why not.
Yeah.
So, yes,
cool.
It was great seeing you, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yes.
Carter Hall, scientific genius from a far-off world, flies into action as Hawkman.
Our next episode is a lot of books I want to talk about coming up. We're definitely going to finish up chatting about the Green Lantern Corps because it's one of the titles we didn't get to talk about this week, and it's kind of fun to take a look at the whole Green Lanternverse. We haven't chatted about them in a little while on the show, and I want to make sure to talk about that great book as well. Another book I want to talk about, and I don't know if we're going to talk about it in depth or just casually, I just read Red Robin number 17, and I really want to talk about that next episode, so that'll be one that we chat about as well. One of my favorite Bat books this week, actually, so I'd like to really chat about that. There's a lot to discuss going on in the Batverse, but I don't know if we're going to do a casual discussion or how we're going to do that. Well, this is also going to be our last episode, the next one, featuring content from the New York Comic Con. We have a few more listeners that we want to definitely get on the show, including our good friend Nathan from Comic Con, so he will be on next week as well. So we have a lot of stuff to get to. The New York Comic Con pieces take me a little longer to edit because we had a lot of background noise going on, so some pieces you couldn't hear everything everybody was saying, so I've been editing them together, so at least the content that you guys are hearing is everything that, obviously can clearly be heard, rather than just hearing a bunch of noise that doesn't make any sense. So they've been fun pieces to put together. I really want to thank once again everybody, whether we got you on the show or not, everybody who stopped by the table to say hello. There were times where some people got to just talk to me, some people just got to talk to Jim, but it was really nice to see everybody. And, if for some reason we didn't get to see you at the con, hopefully we'll catch you at another con. It's one of the great things about conventions for me is whether it's creators, listeners, friends, whatever category you fall into, we just really appreciate that time and really enjoy that time with you. Conventions are just a fun experience for us. So we'll be wrapping that one up next week. And then we'll be jumping on to listener voicemails, and we will be doing all of them. So please continue to call. We will get all of your phone calls on the show, promise. And we will be talking about that soon. Our sponsors for this episode, of course, are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's funny, I was going to pick out specific books, but then I started looking at the discounts, and I'm like, well, I really want to note that the DC line, it looks like every single monthly title is 45% off, which is usually it's 40% off discount. So that extra 5%, depending on how many titles you get, that's a considerable savings this month. So for those of you that either were considering jumping over to DCB Service, this is a great month to make that that transition and try out some titles from DCBService.com. So that's our great sponsors over at DCBService.com. Definitely check them out and experience the savings, and maybe support a title or two that you haven't tried before. That's a great opportunity to check out something new at a great discount. That's what I really appreciate about those months, because it gives me a chance to kind of expand my budget a little bit and try something new. So thank you, DCBService.com, for those amazing discounts. Over at InStockTrades.com, it's a great time to check out The Unknown Soldier from Vertigo. Volume 3 is out. It's called Dry Season, and it collects issues 15 to 20. That's 144 pages. Written by Joshua Dysart, with art by Alberto Ponticelli. And the cover artist on that is Dave Johnson. It's 144 pages, $14.99 regularly, 38% off, only $9.29. It's a great way to try out a series at a great price, and know that you're going to be getting a complete storyline, which is really one of the great things about the way those Vertigo books are collected. So if you haven't been checking out any Vertigo, Unknown Soldier is a really unique and interesting series, and one that I highly recommend checking out. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes, faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines, swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook, helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan, what you do to me, Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanon Guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up.